C'est tous des assistés, les gens.
20, 21. You never pay attention to that, do you?
Yeah, I usually sit there.
Workstation.
I think so, over there.
There's more chairs?
Yeah.
There's more chairs like in this room in here?
Yeah, I see them. Maybe like that one or that one.
Okay, Andrew, we're gonna get started with the crypto talk. Are you ready? Okay, guys, well, welcome everybody. Welcome. Paco, estamos ya transmitiendo. Vamos a empezar. Okay, nice. You están en YouTube ya? ¿Tú vas a tener eso ahí todo el tiempo? Maybe lo voy a levantar. Maybe pongo una cinta. Okay guys, well welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming. Happy Friday. All community people, all living in community right now. So this is the team supporting Sanctuary Om, a cool community building outside of Tulum. How's it going over there, you guys? How's your experience so far?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Fun? All right, what have you learned? What's someone learned while you've been there? Like something you had no idea about before and now you know.
We didn't know about how these logs come to be so clean and bare, but now we
Okay,
do.
right. But now you're doing it.
Now we do.
Yeah, now you do. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I learned how to build a wall from like big dry leaves.
Okay, very cool. How to build a wall, right. This is bioconstruction.
Yeah.
Using natural materials to build useful things. Very cool. All right, anyone else? Something cool you guys have learned so far?
I learned a very nice meditation skill.
Okay, nice.
Style.
Yeah, inner skill
Closure.
stuff. Cool, yeah. An important part of community is learning how to like listen to yourself and be conscious of yourself so you can be conscious with others. Cool. So welcome today, another session of co-creating regenerative communities. Today the topic is permaculture. And we're really grateful to have the Sanctuary Om team here because today we will be, this is the Sanctuary Om floor plan. We will be working with 3 permaculturists that are going to share their experience, projects they've worked on, and what are some permaculture strategies that they would implement in this property here in Tulum. We're going to dive into that later today. We're going to start the day with our blockchain and crypto ninja update of the week. Andrew, thank you for coming, brother. Welcome. Andrew's an expert in crypto and is going to share a bunch of things with us as we see this as the future of money and lots of other things. So where's yours, Andrew?
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Diego. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing?
Good.
So good.
Good? Chill. Yeah, so I'm Andrew, the crypto ninja. What is the other label? I think today, well, let me kind of get a gauge. Who here is like, feels like they have a decent conceptual understanding of at least one cryptocurrency? Okay, that's like half right. All right, so I don't want to get into too much of the technicals today. Julia actually presented the idea of weaving crypto with permaculture, since it's a permaculture workshop day. So I have on my phone here the Permaculture Principles. So throughout my little presentation or my talk, I'm going to go through and just kind of like pick a few principles and be like, okay, crypto relates to this. But just to give you like a contextual overview, at least how I see economic systems, essentially we are nature, right? So anything that humans create has this, whether we can see it, and I think it's coming from kind of the level of consciousness we're actually looking at it. But essentially everything we create, every economic system that we build is somehow modeling the natural world that we live in and how nature, the biomimicry, all the permaculture terms that I'm not super familiar with, but how nature essentially interacts with one another. And this is the economic evolution that we're experiencing, and how crypto is this next stage of that, right? And the biggest ways are just the fluidity, right? The options, the multiple thousands of currencies that we have, like the multiple thousands of species of plants, animals, everything. So yeah, crypto is like modeling this, I see, in a sense, in a way that it's bringing a more fluidity into our economic system, into currencies. If we look at the word, what a currency is, it's really a current, a movement, a flow of energy. And this is what nature is, right? It's just all these different ways the energy flows. Permaculture is like a study of how we can use these natural ways that nature processes itself to really set up containers and environments for this process to be more efficient, right? And that's what cryptocurrency is evolving our economic system into. Whether there's multi-layers to it, right? There's, of course, I think what most people see in crypto is like, Bitcoin. They see a bunch of people making money. They see all this noise and hype and craze, and that's like kind of the bubble surface layer. But deeply into the tech, into the framework that crypto provides, is ways for us to really track our energy, and not only track it, but have complete sovereign ownership of us, right? Our energy stored in an economic system. So yeah, moving into some of the permaculture principles. So I think I'm gonna go through this a little bit, and then maybe do like a actual crypto market update. It's kind of where we 20 minutes. Cool. Still 20 minutes. Or 20 minutes to start. So the first permaculture principle is observe and interact. So when we talk about crypto, again, there's multiple layers to it, depending on how you want to approach the industry, right? As an investor, as a user, as a builder. Of course, anytime we walk into a space, we observe it, right? So coming into the crypto space, just observing what's going on, at least for me, that's kind of my gift, is this observation of like all the different moving pieces. So as an investor, maybe you want to, actually, I don't know if I want to get into like the specifics of what you want to do. I think I'm going to stay more general on this. So observe and interact, right? How can this be tied to crypto? Maybe our personal interests, what we're working on, what our passion is, what our purpose in life is observing how the crypto space can amplify and enhance our personal mission in many different ways, being revenue share models, fundraising, tracking, any type of logistics. Really, when we move into blockchain, it's essentially all of the tools, processes that the old system carries, provides. This is just a better version of it. And I don't think it's super important that we understand too much of the technicals of how it works, right? Like we don't really understand how this TV, works on the back end to get my picture up there from there. But we realize that we can use that webcam to put my picture up here, and we trust it, we know it. So that's kind of the framework that blockchain provides in a sense. So observing, interacting with the space, interactions with tokens in a sense of investments, trading, maybe different ways to use tokenomics to supply value inside of a community, maybe being like appreciation tokens. It's kind of getting into more hypothetical stuff, so trying to stay a little bit general. Catching and storing energy. Of course, I think this is probably the biggest thing that is related to crypto and permaculture, I guess you could say, being that crypto is literally a storage of energy. Really, any type of money is a storage of energy. I think the biggest difficulty that we have in crypto is because it's so open sourced and because so many people can bring their ideas and create protocols and projects. It's like we have all these specific silo different projects and currencies, and it's like, which one do we choose? It's like, we don't even know what blockchain to choose at. Like we're we're getting close. I feel like there's a synergy of what's going on in the space. People are starting to narrow down to a couple blockchains. But then it's on top of that. Okay, now what DAO system do we use? What NFT system? And these are all just technical frameworks, kind of like Instagram or Facebook or some type of social media platform. You can see that we have multiple different social media platforms. It's the same thing with like the crypto system, the crypto space. There's a lot of narrowing down and trying to coordinate together and figure out which systems we're going to use to move forward in communities. Yeah, so storage of energy. I think that's pretty clear, right? How currency stores energy, moves energy, currencies.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask, right? The idea behind this initial intro to crypto talk is there's a lot of tools that it's providing, and a lot of these tools will be benefiting community projects like this, as our goal is to help more of these communities exist in the world. Right, obviously you guys are all there because you're into the concept of it. Imagine if there was one like this or 10 like this in every city. And so this is what we're working towards. And these tools and concepts that Andrew's describing can help us use money in different ways and use it for things that are more of interest to us, kind of like communities. So ask questions. He knows a lot, guides people, he's a coach in the space. So don't be shy. It's like an open floor where someone else is probably wondering the same exact thing you're wondering. So
yeah, if I
please feel
trigger an
free,
idea, or if I'm just being super vague and you have no idea what I'm talking about, just call me out and be like, hey, that makes no sense. Could you actualize that and bring that down into a practical thing?
Mm-hmm.
So the next principle is yield, which I think is really related to DeFi and relating to storing energy into a system. With decentralized finance is what DeFi stands for. Basically, this is the traditional financial systems on the blockchain. So this is where we store capital inside of a system, and we can allow this capital, these resources essentially that we're putting in a contract and a protocol to, one, benefit the system, but because it's our energy that we're placing in there, we get some type of reward or yield from that. And that can be used in multiple different fashions. In a community, let's say it could be like a kind of like a timeshare. We're kind of familiar with like the timeshare models, how we can own a piece of real estate and an asset, but when we're not using it, we can stake it or allow it to be used inside of another ecosystem and gain from that. So I think that's pretty literal to how a yield could work with crypto and community. It could be essentially, maybe you don't actually own a physical space, but you own like an equity amount of tokens inside of the community that represent the entire ownership or collective of the community. And these tokens that you can say, let's say you activate them, you're staying there, you're in the community, it's like I have this much equity, it could be, let's say $100,000. I don't really like going back to the dollar, but just to give a reference point, it's like you have that much equity in the community, and you can kind of activate this token when you're present, when you're there, and you get all the use case, you get all the benefits that the community would provide. If you were to just say, hey, I just want to come live here, and here's my money, right? But then when you leave, you still have this equity share, and then someone else can activate that system. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, sort of.
I would like, can I elaborate on this a bit? So this concept is essentially what we traditionally see as like stock certificates, right? People buy a piece of paper that says, I support what this company is doing. And with that stock certificate, they're entitled to potentially what a company does, make money, right? Profits from what that company does. In this model, we use tokens or NFTs, I'm sure everyone's heard that term recently, same as that stock voucher. By holding this digital token, digital asset, you are entitled potentially to revenue from the community once it's making money, or to nights staying at the community. If you have 10 tokens, maybe you're entitled to 5 nights a week, or 5 nights a month, whatever it may be. And so this is a way to allow others to co-own property, right? In the world, when you consider getting 25 people into the room and everyone throwing money to buy a piece of land, right? That's hard for a dinner. Imagine for a piece of land and with property. So with tools like this, it makes it a little more easy as things are logged in a system that is made to help others invest together and co-own or co-share things like property, for example. So that's like a direct application.
Yeah, another application of the project that I just got introduced to potentially advise for and help sell basically is a project in Guatemala of basically a an incubation hub, like an eco-village resort that has a token model, and they basically provide resources for entrepreneurs to come in and create certain projects, and the hub itself, which would be a DAO, gets a certain amount of tokens from every project that's ever created in this space. And then as the project grows, evolves, it benefits the whole collective. So that's like one NFT DAO type scenario. Really the idea is the creation is unlimited. Like it's just a new framework that allows us to be more transparent, be able to track the interactions, and not be centralized, like not have this central manipulation point, right, where things can be compromised, this centralized compromisation. Yeah. So the next one I think is interesting as well is applying self-regulation and accepts feedback. This is the Permaculture Principles. I think that kind of happens naturally in a market, right? Like when you put something out there, a project, it's the market decides, like, you know, if it's valuable based on, and we kind of see that in token price, but really in the crypto space, a lot of the projects can have a lot of value, a lot of real world use case, but the token price is shit. Honestly, the token price when it comes to crypto is mostly related to hype and speculation around projects in the industry. And we see that with Polkadot, like it's probably the most valuable crypto in the ecosystem just because of its underlying layer amongst all the other layers. But the token, has just kind of been chilling, and they even had, not to get into that, but the point is that the utility value of these tokens doesn't necessarily relate to the price action of the token itself at this current time. But the self-regulation of market is just the market feedback, essentially. We put a project out there, we put an idea out there, and how the market reacts to that, which that also is encapsulated in the marketing itself too. But maybe that's the feedback. Any questions, comments?
Is the token already existing, or would we create one with a project idea and put it out to the people?
For like your specific project?
Hmm?
For your specific project, are you asking if you would create a token for your project?
Yeah. Or what token are you talking about?
I'm being super general.
Yeah.
I'm talking just about the token ecosystem.
Okay.
So I guess I can back up a little bit and just define basically tokens. You're familiar with crypto.
His question was, is there a token for this project, or, right, this is your question?
Are you going to create the tokens?
Right, so this is the strategy moving forward, yes.
Yeah.
We're starting to introduce these topics to community projects,
Yeah.
right? Our space is to support these community projects with new tools, new strategies, new ways of marketing that help them reach their goals of funding, of building, of finding the right people for their community.
Mm-hmm.
So one of these tools is very much tokens, right? Nathan is the founder of another community nearby, near Tulum, and he is actually working on a project like this for his project.
Yeah.
A unique token with a blockchain to create finance for it.
The Ethereum?
It'll be it's in the process of being defined, but it'll be, I think, something more conscious, right? Ethereum uses a lot of energy.
Okay.
But yeah, this is definitely one of these strategies that we're introducing kind of at a high level, why it's something to consider for projects, what benefit they can find. Does that kind of answer the question?
It satisfies me, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, I suppose. Any other ideas, thoughts? I know you all have thoughts. You're all people.
What are these projects doing, and how are you helping communities? Or are you making a new community?
Me personally, I'm not. There's a couple community organizers here.
Yeah.
And yeah, my role in the projects that I'm involved in is just kind of advising how we can use crypto in different ways to build revenue share models inside the community, maybe raise funds, keep accountability with governance, things like that.
So what's the ways that you can use the crypto for the project?
I guess the first layer would be to share value inside the community. Maybe that's the first, I'm not going to number the layers. But one example would be a share value inside the community. So just to pay other people in the community. Could be with an actual monetary value, like you exchange.
Instead of salary, paying crypto.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you have your own currency inside the community. You know, like you don't walk in and you don't pay with pesos, you don't pay with Bitcoin, but you exchange whatever currency at the door with the local currency inside of the community.
What by community you mean, like what's the number of people or just in the resort or?
It could be however many, no specific number. I mean, the model would work. Ideally, if the model works with 10 people, then it would work with 100 people. You could scale it 1,000 people. I think the importance of having local currencies in the community is because with cryptocurrencies, these currencies are programmable, right? So we can design exactly how we want this money to interact with people, with the land, the outside world, right? So that's the benefit. It's not necessarily even something that we are at a place where we're like, okay, cool, here's our token, here's what we're gonna create, and then it's just gonna be like perfect in this beautiful ecosystem. We're actually in the phases of like trying different models in these communities. Because we have this customizable, programmable money and framework, it's like, okay, let's try this. Man, that didn't work so well. Okay, let's try this. Okay, that works a little bit, but let's customize this and add another layer on top of it, right? For example.
What kind of model are you using now?
For example, it would be like, let me see, just to give like a really relatable example. Let's say an NFT, and when I say NFT, tokens are the same thing, right? They're not the same thing, but they are, right? Just for educational purposes, they just interact different ways. So an NFT could be granted as access to this community. And then another layer on top of this NFT could be if you come into the community and you go through a permaculture class, and then you receive like a badge that goes on top of this NFT. Now this NFT is giving you a little bit more permission, a little more value inside the community, right? Just one example. Maybe you take a yoga class or a breathwork like facilitator training, and then you get this badge that goes on top of the NFT, right? So that's just kind of, it's just tracking the value because you're actually adding value to yourself, you're investing into yourself, and now you have more value with your community around you because you've done maybe some more interpersonal work, or you now have a tool that you can teach. So as we kind of up-level ourselves, we can use NFTs inside of our communities, or crypto, in a sense, inside of our community to track, things of that sort. Does that make sense?
When you say like a badge, do you mean like a co-op or like the proof of attendance protocols?
I just mean like an addition. So basically the NFT is just a, imagine it as like your Instagram page, essentially, right? It's just your interface to the other world on the other side, right?
I think the use of co-ops works really well, especially like in the DAO space,
Co-ops? Maybe just not be familiar with the term.
Yeah, like a proof of attendance protocol. It's like if you enter this online call, everyone that's in it then gets the co-op. So it's like if we were all in this meeting and get a sticker, and then at the end of the day that sticker is worth like, I don't know, a mango or something.
Cool, that's a cool one. I've never heard of that one.
They're really, really good use of the DAO space.
It's similar in Discord. You have like the Discord activity levels. So if you join a Discord community and as active as you are in the Discord, you kind of get these rankings.
Yeah.
And then, if you get to a certain ranking, maybe you get access to like an exclusive meeting, or you get access to a whitelist for an NFT, or you get a certain amount of tokens, if they give.
Yeah, it's like well transferable in this stuff. Like if we have our morning meetings, if we all got like a co-op for the morning meeting, we got a co-op for the work that we do during the day.
Right.
At the end of the week, it all equals a certain amount of tokens, and that token we can trade in and use. So.
Yeah, super cool. Is there a specific project that you are like referring to?
There's a lot.
That's why I'm asking. I'm seeing a bunch right now. Is there a
I'm not
specific
thinking
one?
of like any in particular.
Okay.
Just a few DAOs that I follow on Twitter.
POAP. Yeah, really cool. I'm gonna share that in my thing. I'm gonna add that to our register of cool tools. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so that's what this day is about. It's not so much one person up there lecturing and knowing, because no one knows everything. It's about everyone sharing experiences and questions they have to kind of build a bigger book of knowledge base, which is something that's missing in this kind of community movement. All right, Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I
We have
think
a couple
that-
more minutes, like 5 more minutes.
I think that could lead us into the next topic of value diversity, and how all these different value layers that we're talking about have different diverse levels of value that we can add. Like the NFT layer, just the initial access to the community, and then another layer of a badge that you get just from going to the yoga classes or showing up to certain meetings. One concept that we're playing around with in this other project that I'm helping advising for is called Region NFTs, which is a fundraising for an alliance of projects that are being incubated to a DAO software. Is we're playing around with this concept of having these badges that are some that are transferable with the NFT, right? So you have this NFT. This is you buy it. You're giving your value to the project, which is then spreading that value amongst other regenerative-related projects. And then this NFT can then gain rewards, essentially, or badges for just being staked or being in the community a certain amount of time, or for maybe directing funds into a very specific project or showing up to a community event. And it's like these certain NFTs could have programmable, or excuse me, transferable badges that kind of track the history of this NFT, like what it's done and what it's represented from the holders. But then also some badges or some rewards that are basically erased or burnt from the NFT. For example, if you had like an NFT that was given access to the community, and if you hold this NFT and you go to like this specific workshop, then it gives you access to this after party event, right? But if you want to leave the community, you want to sell that NFT like to get your value back that you kind of have staked in this community, you might necessarily not want to transfer all the access to all the events that you get access to, so they kind of like burn away. Does that make sense? Like the badges get erased from the NFT, but the NFT itself still is a ticket item and still has the value. So those are just some concepts that we're like kind of playing around with. Yeah, it's super fun stuff. Like we in all the spaces, all the communities and projects that are being created, like it's this super curious, explorative energy. It's not like, oh, we've got to figure out, right? It's like, okay, here's all these tools and frameworks. How can we play with these and make these fun and enjoyable and fair, and, like transparent and inclusive, and yeah, a lot of things. Any questions, comments about any of that?
Okay, we have our other two presenters that are going to be joining in a minute. We're going to put them on the screen. Any closing thoughts? Any questions on crypto, you guys? Any, who here has crypto? Okay. Who here has someone directly that they know that is holding crypto or is involved with it? Okay, cool. That kind of covers most people. All right, so anything stopping you guys? Like, is it like, would you feel confident in investing in crypto or getting, like, even if someone was like, hey, I have something to send you, would you feel confident in knowing how to do that? Or would that, like, would you require a little bit of a, like, workup for that? Those that don't have crypto right now. This is kind of the question we want to share in coming workshops. Like, okay, what are like the first steps? Would that be really interesting for you guys that are not holding crypto potentially? No,
Yeah.
potentially? Yeah, a little bit of a guide and a walk up. Okay, cool. Yeah, so maybe we'll start kind of incorporating a little bit of that too. Okay, cool.
You can also connect with me on Instagram, Crypto
Right.
Love Ninja. Go to my link tree. There's a
Instagram's
mini
on Instagram.
course. There's there's an ebook, all with the resources that will help you download wallets, understand what you're doing. It's like all the educational stuff.
Sweet.
All the techie heady stuff. Yeah, real quick, we discussed doing like a market update. So just real quick, Bitcoin is at like 40K. Basically, we're sitting at the support level that if we break below 38-ish, I have my stops at 37.5. Basically, if we break below this support, then we're in this like prolonged bear market phase. But if we bounce from here, then we're also at the greatest risk reward opportunity we've probably ever seen in crypto. So choose one step.
Cool. Thank you. We are going to welcome also today our yeah, so as we said, today and our series of workshops. This is Lily and this is Dana. They're going to be joining us in a second. I'm going to bring the volume up. I don't know where the controllers are. Ooh, I gotta turn my volume. Okay, well, give me a second, you guys. Okay, so Lily and Dana are permaculture masters and experts. They have an awesome business where they're sharing their skills with projects around Mexico and in different parts of the world. And we are excited to hear about them, their thoughts on permaculture. I will be sending you guys a picture in a second. Today's workshop will be around the idea of implementing a permaculture strategy on a project that is here. A lot of these friends that are joining us are from this community. And I will give you guys the floor. Welcome everyone. Let's see how the sound kind of flows. It should be okay. There's a little bit of a delay, so you guys hit it. Welcome everyone. Let's see how the sound.
Okay. Can you guys hear us all right? Wonderful. Well, we are so excited to be here and excited to be connecting to all of you that have projects or are starting your projects. Let me know just really fast that the sound is good. Yeah? Okay. Awesome. Super. Buenísimo. What we wanted to talk to you guys about today is just show you some, first of all, talk about the importance of whatever kind of project you're working on, whether it's a crypto project, whether it's a hotel project, whether it's an education project, online, in person. Permaculture is a fundamental piece of building the communities of the future. And it's a fundamental piece both in terms of creating food and also of creating community and just really building spaces that can be both productive and also can be spaces in which we build community from a resource base. So food is fundamental. What we eat, how we eat, where we eat, who's involved in that process is fundamental to building community and to building the future. So we wanted to share a little bit of our process and show it to you in specific projects that we're working on. So I'm going to first show a screen, and we'll show, I think we could show the video first, no? That this is just like a little introduction to what we're doing here in Phoenix Farms. So great. This should be. Okay. And I don't think it's playing. Let's see, Dan, if you want to try and get it going as well. Let's see, Dan, if you want to try and get it going as well. We can try and get it here.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Yo soy Lily Foster, la directora de Phoenix Farms, y nosotros somos un despacho que nos dedicamos a diseñar, implementar y independizar proyectos de agricultura regenerativa. Estamos viviendo un momento histórico en lo cual nuestro mundo es cada vez más marcado por el cambio climático. Y en este escenario de futuro es necesario de generar nuevas formas de producir y consumir y generar cadenas de valor regenerativas a nivel local. Nosotros trabajamos con proyectos desde nivel comunitario hasta asesoría para gobierno local. Para comunidades pueden tener una respuesta práctica a cómo pueden regenerar sus comunidades, sus terrenos y hasta sus sistemas productivos. Entonces lo que hacemos de día a día es que generamos esquemas de producción según la topología de clima del proyecto y programas prácticas para que personas quienes nunca han cultivado pueden tomar liderazgo en sus comunidades y generar soluciones que realmente funcionan para generar alimento y también regenerar lo que es la ecología local de su proyecto. Como empresa tenemos más de 12 años trabajando con comunidades, con empresas socialmente responsables, el sector agrícola y gobierno, tanto en México como Estados Unidos y América del Sur. Como equipo creemos que este proyecto de agricultura regenerativa es más importante que nunca para que tanto la industria agrícola como el público general hasta el gobierno tenga las estrategias y el conocimiento práctico de cómo podemos generar otro sistema alimentario para esta época de cambio climático.
Awesome. So that's just like a little bit of what we're doing. I wanted to talk, I know a lot of you are starting new projects and are starting maybe from zero. Maybe a lot of you are in, we work both in the city and in the countryside. And Dan, if you could help me with the CV here, that would be awesome. If we could show that. But we want to talk a little bit about what's that process like of when we start, and also, you know, how can you, if you're not if you have never worked with permaculture before, how can you reach out and find different members of your community? And I would say one of the first steps is looking at, you know, really doing a deep analysis in your project of whether that's in the countryside or whether that's in the city. Like first looking at what is the actual food system that you have set up, like where are people eating, what are they eating, what are their major influences, what is the ecological context of the place, and that's really going to give you an idea of what today holds power over people's habits and the spaces that they're looking at to produce. And I think starting from there is really an important piece of it. So for example, in the city, what we noticed is that people really are looking for a connection to nature, and they're looking for a social connection. So what we do in the city is we create a lot of spaces that are on rooftops, that are on empty lots, that are spaces that are both beautiful, that they have different kind of plants that maybe people haven't seen before. So everything from like native fruit trees to like, you know, endemic species and species that are from the area, that we can start telling that story to people about, you know, what are these plants, being able to talk about nutrition, but doing it in a space that's beautiful. And then we'll do, you know, open garden with music, with food, invite different, both, you know, chefs and, you know, we work with a local beer company. So bringing in community members. Food is everywhere. So wherever you are, someone is working with food, and really, you know, pronouncing that social element of the project where people can go and have a social experience and start to learn about permaculture through the story of food and through the stories of nature. So I'm going to see if we can get up. It says the file is too big, but I'm going to see if we can do it here through sharing the screen. Thank you guys for your patience here. So it's share screen, and then I'm going to try and share this guy. All right. All right. So hopefully you guys can now see my screen. So then, and if this doesn't work, we can also just talk about it. But what I wanted to give you guys a sense of today is, first of all, that you can do permaculture anywhere, in any kind of space. And really the magic of permaculture is that we are working with the reality that is to create the realities that could be. So first of all, whether you're in the city, whether you're in the countryside, there are people all over the world that know about plants and that know about food. So, and that know about their local context. So really what you first want to do is permaculture is a social process in which you're going to reach out to different people in your community and find both those local experts or people that you can bring in to help start up the project. And really make it a community building effort in that sense. You can invite in someone that knows a lot about fruit trees, someone else that knows a lot about herbs, someone else that's really passionate about cooking. And I would really invite you all to think of this as, these are not projects that you have to do by yourself. These are projects that, you have the opportunity to build this incredible network. So, even if you're working, like this is our office and show garden in Mexico City, and we have everyone from artists to architects to scientists to nonprofits to chefs to accountants to all sorts of people that come to this space because it's a space that is open to the public, and it can be a multi-use space. So I think, first of all, designing your spaces so that they can invite different types of people. And then with this is a condominium project. This is a food forest that we installed and designed and installed in Mexico City. And so there's everything from native fruit trees like guayaba, guaymachil, which is a beautiful native tree. We have some pears in there, some native pears. And here in the city, we focus a lot on nutrient density. So we focus on, growing people's vitamins, getting people to think about this idea of what is real food in the sense of fresh food, in the sense of that, most of the vegetables in the United States, the average is that it's about 1,500 kilometers that food tends to travel. So there's like these production points, and then it's all packaged and refrigerated and brought into the city. So most of what is available to people is not, it's food that has been sprayed with pesticide, that's had a ton of preservatives on it, and it's lost a lot of the nutritional value. So I would definitely recommend starting with like high vitamin density leafy greens that are going to give you a very abundant harvest. And when people start eating that, they notice how their brain changes, they notice how their emotions change, they notice, because what we feed our system is the state of mind of our body. It's what activates our genetics. So really starting with those high impact crops, I think can make a great first impression with your project and really get people on board of believing in this project and knowing that it's important. The other fundamental thing I think is creating social spaces. So much of what's wrong with our world today or missing in our world today is that we don't have physical places where we can interact with and meet other people. We're all in our little micro world doing our routine, and in the cities we live in this ironic situation, and we're building these kind of cities, replicating these cities often in the rural developments, which is unfortunate. But we're like all together but always separate and always alone. And even if it's just creating some benches, a chair, different activities, like I've seen some cool gym projects, or like the community space that you guys are in today, a co-working space, like all of that with the nature is incredibly, incredibly impactful and gets people starting to have these conversations and gets people, this is a beautiful project that we did in the north where they have like a little theater. So like the kids will come to maybe see a theater performance, or maybe they'll come for a music event, and there's the nature. So really look at like, what are the people in your community drawn to, and what is it, what are their needs and what are their desires that you can fulfill with these kind of spaces. This is a restaurant project that we did where the chef wanted to have the opportunity to experiment and learn about native herbs. And so they have a native herb class there, and we did a bunch of different classes with younger chefs that were starting to learn about cooking and about these herbs. And many of them were chefs that had worked for years and years in the kitchen and had never seen these plants live. And it was just so exciting for them to connect with this. So again, creating these spaces that are both productive, but that are also spaces of beauty and spaces of connection where we can begin to have these conversations together through observation. Even vertical urban spaces can be really amazing. These are all different public spaces. And I deeply believe that everyone has the everyone has the capability of growing food. Like, even if you have never ever worked with plants before, you have in your DNA and in your genetics an attraction to nature and the ability to observe the world around you. And that's what permaculture is based off. It's not about knowing everything, which you will never know enough, but it is about, reaching out to community, finding those different members, finding people that can help you support your project, and that your project supports other micro industries, like someone who's making compost, someone who's working with herbs, someone who's giving classes. Like, these are really powerful projects because they bring in so many different members of the community into these win-win situations where we all have something to contribute, and we can all, through observation, understand what do plants need, what do we need as communities. And this isn't something that we have to do alone. This is something that we have to do together. So even in like really small spaces, recycled gardens, like these huacales that we're doing, these are after school programs for kids. So, this is a meditation garden in the countryside. So again, like what this project is about, for example, is looking at what is it that people want, need, desire, and how can we incorporate nature with that. So it really is, it's not just about telling people, oh, you need to garden and you need to eat better. A lot of times we come in through the side door of like, okay, people need peace, people need a space to be alone, people need, to walk or exercise, or they want to have food with their family. This is a beautiful a tourism project that was started by Paula, who's an artist, and she wanted to have start a glamping on the old family farm. And so they started their production, and they're really focused about food and discovery and doing natural tinctures and plants and having a space for artists to go and to be able to be in nature. And so again, this is like really anything that you're doing has an element of food in it. And it's about designing food systems that respond to both the ecological crisis and the social crisis that we have, workshops. So I would say wherever you are, and we're going to open up to questions at the end, but wherever you are and whatever you're doing, like there are people that are passionate about many different things that would love to be part of your project. And you look at all these happy faces, people are excited to learn. And if we all contribute a little bit, like for example, in the bottom right hand corner, this is a bunch of different women that got together to make a seed bank. So another amazing example of everyone just bringing a little bit can facilitate having this enormous resource in that's a shared resource. So there are like and we could talk about the technical elements of the 1, 2, 3 of how you look at the soil, you look at the climate, you look at what kind of plants, and all of that is, I think, pretty we have great resources on that. There's great resources online, like all of that can be learned. But the heart of permaculture is not so much about one person having the information as like, what is it that you're building? And so I would say that's the first step. And when you start a project, is really doing that social, cultural, food systems analysis. And the other piece of it, which is actually growing the food, I would say is the easy part, because we're working with nature, we're looking at climate. And I think the complexity and also a lot of great projects really miss the mark because they haven't thought of that bigger piece of it, is like, what are we actually doing, and how do we create spaces that are productive and get people incorporated? So another great way is just starting with workshops. So maybe even before you plant your garden, you can start looking at getting offering workshops, free workshops or paid workshops, or that people pay for. We've worked with a lot of different brands as well to facilitate that and offer free workshops that get people involved. Invited friends that are chefs to come in and cook dinner, do benefit dinners, There's so much, even, cocktail garden. This is something that we love to do, of getting, people that maybe they don't know that they want to do permaculture. They think they just want to learn about, how to facilitate a good party, but then, they learn about herbs and they get all this other, experience with it. So that, I would say, is like, these are just a few projects, but I really wanted to give you guys an idea of this incredible diversity of people and places, that are vitalizing their spaces through, planting plants, talking about food, and just really opening up, new opportunities. So that's the beginning of what, we wanted to talk about and open up as well, to, let me see. Okay, cool. Wonderful. Okay, it looks like I was not able to. Okay, cool. So good. I think we're in there now. Awesome. So yeah, so I would say that, when you start out, that is like the main, piece of it. And then in terms of where your, what your process is in terms of starting the growth system, and maybe then, I thought I was presenting, but it looks like you're presenting. If you could go to the, maybe one of the projects of, with Masawa or something like that. Great. Yeah. So this is a great one too. If you can really see these different, spaces, and just how different the actors are. The first thing we always want to look at is climate. No, so that's the first thing you want to look at in terms of, when do the rains come? When does the heat come? Okay, great, awesome. And then from there, look at, what are the plants that are going to thrive in that environment, and look at the seasonality. So I'm getting, there's, some questions, and wonderful. Yeah, let's open up to have a few questions, and we would love to hear from you guys, specifically what kind of projects, you're working on, and, what we can, maybe we can answer some questions now. Great.
Okay, hey guys, can you hear me? Hand
Yeah.
up if you can hear me.
Now we can.
Okay, there we go. All right, sweet. So yeah, we are a big different group here. Where's everybody from? Can we just start from here? Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. When she talks, we'll go. Okay, so starting from here, where are we from? Okay. Poland. Where? Hungary. Okay, cool.
Mexico. Jimmy.
I'm Colombian.
Baltimore, USA.
America, baby. Flo, Mexico. Okay. Mexico, Roy. Where are you guys from? US. Oz. Okay, so yeah, we're a quite diverse group here. So I love how you tied in that people from everywhere are coming together for this. At the end, it's food, right? We all eat food. We all need food. So out of the group here, Lily, I'd like to show you guys the group so you can get a see of what's going on in here. Who has experience with permaculture? Who has like consciously said, okay, I'm going to grow food for myself or multiple people? Who's done that before? For yourself maybe, or just in anyone that is around. One, maybe. I'm asking you guys, like, have you done this in the past? Do you have experience with this? Have you started a garden and grown food from it and like eaten a carrot or a tomato that you grew? Who has done this? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, cool. So you can see a few people in here, about 6. Does anyone have questions specifically that haven't been involved? Maybe how do you get started? Or those of you that have been involved, like maybe something that you couldn't figure out in the process. Does anyone have a question that they'd like to ask? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you didn't
we talk about the four seasons, for example, if it's winter, like what do you do back home? For example, in winter, I can't really grow like vegetables. Just
Right. Where do you live?
in Canada.
In Canada, right. Okay, so in winter was a question. What can she do in that time?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a tough one. It's cold in Canada. Lily, do you have any
Yeah.
advice? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think first of all, like for those who haven't come across permaculture before, permaculture is about growing food and community following nature's patterns. So instead of, maybe forcing, like in industrial agriculture, they'd be like, oh, well, put a greenhouse and heat the greenhouse and then you can grow food. In permaculture, what we would look at is what is the natural pattern? What is nature doing in winter? And what we see that nature does in winter is it really just draws back, it's not producing, and it's a time of deep nutrition. So what in colder latitudes, both in like Canada and down south, in lower latitudes, like in we've worked in the south of Chile and in Argentina where it's hard, hard snow. There are different techniques you can do to keep your perennial plants alive. So putting on tons of mulch. So what we will usually do is in autumn, we'll put solid nutrition. So compost or compost, vermicompost, or even manure. That's like a solid compost that will slowly break down over time. So in the end of fall, we give the plants nutrition. We cover it with a ton of mulch, so you can use heavy straw, or you can use in Mexico a lot of times we'll use like the mazorca and the dry pieces of the corn stalks, and just have that be a time of rest and nutrition for the plants. You can grow brassicas and like broccoli and kale. I've seen chard also live through a hard winter, so you can use microtunnels and mulch. And there's some great gardeners. I would look at Seattle has some great gardeners, as well as Vancouver. There's a huge gardening scene. So today you could find someone on Instagram that's living in that colder climate and see, like what kind of techniques that you're doing. And I would say the big message is look at what is nature doing and replicate that in your garden, because so often we're really worried about getting harvest. But, in order to get harvest in the big sense of things, we also have to follow these patterns of nature has a time of rest. Nature has a time of deep nutrition. So I would say, look at what the wild nature is doing in your area. And a lot of farming in colder climates is about really taking advantage of your hot seasons and your wet seasons, and then, making your ferments, making, your tinctures, and really extending your food through taking advantage of when there's a ton of harvest. How do you save that harvest for later? So it's really different growing in those areas than growing in the tropics, but the heart of it is the same, which is looking at nature as a teacher.
okay, very cool. Great answer, Lily. Thank you. All right, does anyone else have any questions they would like to know about the topic of permaculture? Okay, very cool. Great answer, Lily. Thanks, Lily. Okay, yeah, any questions? Anything else about permaculture that potentially you're wondering, potentially you've seen, or like high level, what is permaculture? Is it confident with that? Yeah.
One difficulty that I've always faced with like growing my own stuff is limited space. So when you live in a very dense city, like for example where I live now, like I have a small balcony and I do my best to grow like tomatoes and chilies and peppers and stuff, but on like a polluted street in a dense city where there's not that much green space, like how do you go about growing like healthy fruits and vegetables?
Okay, all right. So good question. Let me see.
Yeah.
Lily, did you hear?
Yeah, awesome. I did. And that's a wonderful question. Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I would say, first of all, in small spaces in the city, we work a lot in the cities. It's all about growing vitamins. So I would say, even though, we all want to have those tomatoes and, cucumbers and chiles, and that they're sort of, the fruits need a lot more space and a lot more care. I would say start out with your dark leafy greens, which you can even grow that in like a small window garden or a small pot. You know, and yes, it's kale, chard. In Spanish, there's nabo, you know, beets, nabo, like turnip would be another great one. Radish, like look at what are the most high density, high nutrition density crops, and then what do you like to eat in that? And that I think is really in terms of growing your own food and being able to have a constant harvest. Like you can even have a little window box that's full of those dark leafy greens. And I guarantee you, you know, if you have good soil in there and good compost and they have enough light, like they're very resistant to different insects, and you can harvest, you know, 3 times a week from a little tiny space easily. And we have a ton of, we do that a lot in Phoenix. We're going to be giving an online course starting in May that's focused on urban systems. So you definitely all invited to check that out. And I would say it's a lot about in those small spaces. It's one about growing, you know, nutrient dense, high volume harvest crops. So another time with chard and kale, like you can do a constant harvest. You don't have to cut the whole plant. You can take, a lot of times what we'll do is just harvest the outer leaves. And so the plant keeps growing. And we've had some kales that have lasted for like 3 or 4 years, which is pretty amazing. And they become these like kale trees, and you can, so I would say definitely focus on nutrition. And then the other thing about cities that more and more cities are opening up to, and again, you know, using technology to get people together about this is really exciting, but is, you know, asking for access to public space. It's a win-win for local government and for, you know, get a group together that, you know, if you see a local park or a public space that's not being used, even the roof of your house, a lot of times, you know, these apartment buildings have these incredible rooftops. And if you get a couple, you know, neighbors together and you could be like, hey, we want to do this project, and, you know, do your design, look into it. But those would be like my top 2 things of, in terms of living on the city, both doing it in your own home and then looking for that opportunity to get public space and get a group together.
Okay, cool. So one topic also that I want to, ooh, is going to be loud. 1 second. Okay, yeah, one topic I would love to ask you about that has recently introduced to me. You asked about small spaces, the concept of vertical gardens, right? Using processes like aquaponics or hydroponics. One that is new to me is aeroponics. So this is growing plants in a vertical way. Let me share the screen real quick.
Wall in my kitchen.
Oh, cool.
And stuff,
okay. Okay, that happens. Let's see. So, yeah, this concept of growing vertically, it's happening a lot in urban cities, like in urban communities specifically, that we've been seeing projects working on. Lily, can you see the screen there?
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
awesome.
cool.
Great diagram.
Let me share. Do you have experience? Have you seen this in action anywhere? Have you been working with this? Can you share some about it with us?
Yeah, and wonderful. I'm so happy you brought this up, because this is it's a big trend right now, and I think it's really important to do it in a conscious way as well. So we've worked a lot with hydroponics, and I'm a big fan of hydroponics. When, you know, whenever there's a situation that you can recover soil in terms of climate change, that's the best, because that's where we capture carbon. And that's really like the lifeblood of where agriculture and climate change cross. Where hydroponics comes in, I think, is, you know, there's so many urban spaces that don't have a lot of space or only have concrete. And these are really great photos and diagrams. So you can see how you can take advantage of vertical space. And we worked a lot with hydroponics, and, you know, I think the key thing here is really being very aware and very rigorous about looking about, like, are we just making more plastic, or are we, you know, coming up with real solutions? So look at where the products come from. I think that's really important, like making sure it's recycled plastic, not new plastic. Looking at where, you know, the downside of these systems is the energy that they require. So there's tons of stuff you can do to link it up to solar, to get it on a timer. And again, if you're growing, what are you growing? If you're growing just lettuce, to me, it's a huge waste of resource. If you're growing vitamins, if you're growing, really nutritious things, then it can be a great solution. And the best of all of these is the aquaponics, because aquaponics is the most natural system in which you basically have like the fish poop will feed the growing of the vegetables. And that's those kind of closed cycles that we want to look for. The downside of aquaponics is a lot of times you have a lot of weight involved with the water tanks. And that's the only downside. And then like making sure you don't kill your fish is really important. So starting small. There's a really great project that's called Growing Power. That's I believe it's in Michigan, and they run their entire aquaponics off these beds where they have vermicomposting. So they have worm composting, and the worm composting feeds the system, and that's a really do-it-yourself setup system. The Aeroponics, I have not worked with, but I think it's really exciting in terms of it's a way of using technology to optimize the resources used in growing. So a lot of it's about timers. It's about, this is a great aquaponics system. So you could see, I'd say aquaponics in terms of do-it-yourself and ecological value is the best option, because once you figure out that balance, you're producing, possibly fish protein, or there's also systems that will grow, that do ornamental fish, which is really different. But a lot of them will grow like tilapia fish. So you're growing a whole food system in which the waste of one piece is the input of the other piece. So I think aquaponics is really, really exciting and super important. And I would say aeroponics, while I don't know a lot about it, there's tons of investment going into it for cities. And I think we need to be really careful about what resources do we consume with those systems, and that we don't look at those systems as a replacement for soil gardening. I think it can be a great resource and added system in cities, but it's really important that we're growing nutrition and that we're aware of, what resources do these systems consume. So that's a really exciting field, and there's tons of investment going into that, principally in the United States. There's a lot of investment going into that, and then in the South, in Mexico, and in Chile and Argentina, where we've worked, there's a big interest in aquaponics, and I think mainly because it's a more low-tech, high-impact solution. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and again, being very aware of like what's the resource consumption and what are we producing with the systems. But definitely a great option for taking advantage of that vertical space.
Okay, very cool. Thank you, Lily. That was a great answer. The topic of aeroponics was recently presented to me. Someone working on getting a system that exists in another part of the world and starting to implement it in different projects here in Quintana Roo and in the area. I'll send you some info on it. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So in conjunction with the day, besides talking about it and theoretical topics to introduce everyone to it, we would like to do some practical application. So I sent you a picture on your cell phone. I am going to also put the picture here. 1 second. This one, share. Okay. All right, so here in the house, we have Flo and the community of Sanctuary Ohm. This is a community growing near Tulum. I've shared the map on there, so you can check it out. Sanctuary Ohm is going to be a middle to short term community space where people get to live integrated in the jungle. This map that you see here is kind of the layout of what it's looking like. All the number 4s, some of them have been built. You guys are on like the 6th one now? 5th. Okay, on the 5th one. And on the right side of the figure is the common spaces, the shared areas. In between these common spaces, there's a lot of jungle space left, right? What you are familiar with in the Riviera Maya, kind of young jungle, lots of pioneer trees. And so these are all terms in the permaculture space, right? A lot of the trees here, because the ground is solid rock, are called pioneer trees. They come in first, they drop deep roots and start breaking up these rocks. After hundreds of years, these trees die, drop leaves, and decompose into soil. This is the principle of permaculture. As permaculturists, our goal is to motivate and help Mother Nature to go about this process as fast as we can possibly get food growing in the ground. So at Sanctuary Home, a lot of this is in process of building living spaces, and now using some of this shared space. I know it's kind of like a the proper practice is to go to the land, be in the land for at least a year, observe how the sun comes up and goes down, how much it rains, when it rains. From seeing this diagram and observing this space, is there any kind of high-level advice that you would be comfortable to share? We have a dry erase board there with like the map that I am going to be drawing in some of your suggestions. In a few minutes, we will have a friend who is the owner of the first community that we co-created here in Mexico. He just did a syntropic agroforestry class. So he's going to be coming in and also sharing his experience, learning permaculture in that way for the first time. And what are some things that from his course and experience now that he would implement on this piece of land? So I would love to get your advice or your suggestions as to why some of the things they're working with are using plants, natural growing trees to create natural walls, right? What are some of the plants you guys are thinking to use for the natural walls?
Well, right now we're using like what's called guano leaves.
Guano leaves, okay.
And then we're gonna plant some crawlers, like we were gonna plant some passion fruits.
Okay, passion fruit.
Just when they were ready to be transplanted, the ants ate them overnight.
Oh no, your passion fruit babies?
Yeah, we
all of them got
hundreds
eaten.
of those, and they were.
Okay, so they're considering using live plants for walls and some other things. I'm gonna give you the floor. Maybe you can point at the screen, or I'll point while you're suggesting certain corners.
Yeah, awesome. And this is a great activity to really look at. You know, to open up the design to get a bunch of different opinions. Yeah, awesome. And this is a great activity to really look at. You know, to open up the design to get a bunch of different opinions. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I can hear it's talking, but let's. So first of all, syntropic agriculture is a really exciting technique that we've been implementing it for about 2 years. It's kind of like an accelerated edible forest. It's a very highly intensive management system. So I would say be aware of that. It's a lot of labor at the beginning, but then as the plants mature, you really see the results of it over time. So I would say, first of all, in tropical soils, understanding that in tropical soils, and a lot of you who are living in Quintana Roo in that area, you've seen it. It's a very thin soil. So it's a very thin soil that's basically over calcrete rock. And about 80 to 90% of the organic matter in tropic systems is in the canopy. So the first thing you want to do, if there's an existing forest, amazing, look at the light patterns, and you want to start building biomass, which when we talk about biomass, we're talking about basically like a bunch of leaves and organic matter that you can turn into compost and soil. So you, of course, will be able to produce tons of food, but your first priority in the tropics and in general, anywhere that you are gardening, is, especially in hot areas, is about creating that canopy and that microclimate that allows many other diverse plants to grow. So if you don't have the canopy, if you don't have native trees, the first thing you're going to want to do is put in, like, there's tons of productive palms that you can work with. Native legumes. Native legumes are the most important kind of plants, because all native plants have been evolving in this, whatever context you're in, have been evolving for millions of years to respond to this climate. So even if your end game is that you want to produce food for this community, you got to start with the native legumes, native trees. You want fast growing plants that are going to create that microclimate and that shade. And then once you have that established, then you can start putting in your food crops underneath. Insects are a huge challenge in tropical environments. And I would say the best way to work with insects is to have plants that they are attracted to and plants that can be host plants, because they will go to those plants instead of eating your crop. So while maracuya is an amazing, amazing crop, I would put that in second or third. And first, you want to get in your native species, your canopy, create that microclimate, start creating your soil cycle. And it really is a thing of, you know, setting up that system. So then after that, you can put in your edible crops, but really not jumping ahead on that, because if you put in first those delicious edible crops, a lot of times the insects will take over and you can't establish the system. So we always ally with native plants, ideally native, fast-growing native trees, or even shrubs that are going to create that little microclimate and start creating soil. And then again, with the idea of both syntropic and edible forests, is that when we do a poda, or when we cut off part of a plant, what the plant does is, if you cut off a branch or you cut off leaves, it puts all of that energy that it was putting into the leaf, it puts it into the soil. So you can work a lot in tropical systems, especially establishing it at the beginning of the rainy system, to produce a ton of biomass, make your compost, and start getting that perennial structure in there, and then adding in the annuals over time. And I'm really excited to hear also what the other producers would say. But I would say those are like the key steps that we want to focus on when we start.
All right, that was really good feedback. I'm taking these notes, I'm adding them. So this is being streamed live on our Facebook channel. So all the notes I'm adding in the comment section. So everything that's being said will be in there. You guys can look up after it. So the big takeaway from that was, it's good to use native legumes, right? Legumes are like beans or things that create pods. These kinds of plants create a bacteria around the roots that bring nitrogen into the system. And so nitrogen is what is used in the soil to feed a lot of fruit-bearing plants. So this is why legumes are important to maybe introduce first, right? They're more susceptible or more resistant to bugs, which you saw they already ate the maracuyas. They love it, more than likely. Okay. Native legumes. Okay, yeah, Lily, any suggestions on native legumes? Like maybe a few
Yeah.
Or
specifically legumes?
Yeah, there's so many in Mexico. I would say, yeah, like, so all of the huizaches are wonderful. So huizache, there's tons of different varieties, and you can actually, what you can do is, like, in Quintana Roo, there's a bunch of different ones. If the ones that plants that produce pods, so you want to, that's a great technique that you can look at, of like, what are the plants that are producing pods in the area, and what are the fast growing ones. There's a ton of the huaje is another one that grows. There's a bunch of different kinds of huaje. So ideally they would be leguminous trees that also are going to produce a lot of biomass. So a lot of times also giganton is another one that it kind of looks like a wild sunflower. Giganton produces a ton of biomass, and that's more of like, it's more of like a woody bushy, but that it will create you a ton of microclimate and a ton of biomass, which that's not a legume, but it's a wonderful starter plant. Consuelda or comfrey is an herb that's a great soil builder. And with these shallow soils, a lot of times what you have to do is create mulch pits. So mulch pit would be another key phrase that you can look up. And we've started a couple different projects that were totally deforested, just making little islands of mulch pits. And banana is another really important one, which is it's going to produce you a ton of leaf. And you're gonna have to wait for the bananas, but it creates a bunch of shade and a bunch of harvest with the podas that you can make compost out of and just really build your soil. My last comment would be to look at biochar, especially in those porous calcrete soils. Pretty much anything that you put just filters through. So biochar is a way of basically you make slow roasted charcoal. So what charcoal has is a ton of little holes, and it's like which will absorb all the compost and all the nutrients you're doing. So you can think of that as like the base of your garden, biochar, because that's what's going to keep everything in there. If you're just putting in a ton of nutrients and you don't have that base, a lot of it's just going to filter through, and then it also evaporates because it's the tropics. So biochar, mulch pits, and native legumes. There's tons of different varieties of huasaches and that are in the area. And Ramon is another really important plant that's in Quintana Roo. There's actually a study that you can look up online that's in Spanish that's called Native Fruit Trees of Yucatan. And it talks a lot about the native fruit trees that are in danger of extinction. And you will not probably be able to find them in a store or in a greenhouse. I would say talk to local farmers about propagating from cuttings because they're not available commercially, but it's really important to plant all of those. So, and we'll also look up a good list. But I don't know, Dana, if you want to add in anything of plants that we've worked with in the area, but those are a couple really, really great ones for getting started.
I don't know, moringa.
Moringa is also, that's a great one. So Moringa is from India, but it's a really fast establisher. That's a great one, Dana. Thank you. That it produces biomass and is also like super productive.
Okay, beautiful. Great answer. Thank you, Lily, for these examples and those experiences. So Santiago has also joined the call. Hello, Santiago. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, can you... Okay, beautiful. Great answer. Thank you, Lily. Okay, Santiago, I would love for you to give us a short intro. Lily, I would love for you guys to stay tuned if you have the time to. Santiago is going to do a quick intro, and maybe we can get just like a cross-pollination of thoughts between you guys. We talked about a short intro to permaculture here with the group. Santiago, everyone say hello to Santiago. Yeah, a lot of new permaculturists, people interested in it, living in a community here around Tulum. This map that you see on the screen is a map of that community. And part of the practical application of the day is to share what are some ideas observing this map that you would suggest, right? Again, we realize we have to observe the land for a long time and do the whole process. But if there's anything that you could suggest for the project, right? They were talking about creating, for example, natural walls with certain plants. They were thinking about using passion fruit. And ants ate all the passion fruit recently, which is exactly what Lily was talking about. It happens until you create kind of a better environment for them with some pioneer trees, with some legumes. So yeah, go ahead, Santiago, give us a short intro and share anything you'd like about permaculture and if you could apply it to this map.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Hello, everybody. Oscar, it would be super amazing if I could see the faces of the people just a little bit. just to know who is in the room. I will love that. And then I will be presenting myself. I'm Santiago Palomar. I'm Mexican, and I'm right now in Costa Rica implementing a big project. Sorry for being a little bit late. True is my neighbor gets stuck in the roof. Antar, that's nice. Hello, everybody. Hello. Okay. There's a lot of people there. That's so nice. So yeah, I've been the last, how is it, like 11 years doing permaculture. My background is like I was growing in the city. I dropped school. I was a punk. I was just like in politic movements and trying like to do some change because I had like so much rage, so much anger, so much sadness inside, and I just like could not like turn around it. So one day we had this occupied house, and this friend come and tell me about permaculture and told me that we need to make green gardens in the roofs of people. And that was like the starting point for me. Then I went into the desert of Biricuta, and I was working a lot there. Then moved into the Caribbean. I was there for 5 years between Tulum and Bacalar, working also in permaculture, and moved back to the center. Did a lot of projects there, a lot of workshops, and now here I am in Costa Rica. That will be like the really short story. And yeah, in all these years, I found out that permaculture sometimes it's like too broad, too big to grasp, right? It's like just too broad of a concept. So I will really like to talk with you guys about what is like practical permaculture and how we can like really go and unfold in that path, right? So you were all already talking about what is permaculture, right? Do you hear me there? Yes. Okay. So it's a little bit
yes, we
difficult.
talked a bit about permaculture and some of Lily's background, kind of how you shared. Okay. Yeah, we have a delay here, so I can hear you and we can hear you. But
that's it.
Keep presenting.
There's a little bit of delay, and I also I didn't do a lot of online speaking or classes, but I will really like to try. If Oscar, you can help me there. Somebody there, can you give me a really quick definition of permaculture in the class? Somebody that would like to participate?
Quick, anyone have a quick definition of permaculture they'd want to share? Summary, what do you think permaculture is? Anyone? Yeah, give it.
Permanent agriculture, permanent culture to connect people with their food systems and the community.
Good one. I really like that one. And that's how it was at the first, right? Bill Mollison and David Holmgren, which are the founders of permaculture, one as a peer teacher revising the thesis of the other. Their first thought was, how can we create a permanent agriculture system? Let's call it permaculture for perma-agriculture, right? But then as the concept develops, because it was such a great idea, I don't know if you had read or looked at Permaculture 1, Permaculture 2, or Permaculture Designer book, which are like the first books these guys published. They had that conception. But after that, like the next 30 years after they dropped this bomb in Australia, of knowledge, of inspiration for a lot of people looking for resiliency, for communities all around the world, they found a couple interesting things, right? First is that a lot of people was already doing permaculture without knowing it, right? We can talk, for example, of Masanobu Fukuoka or Sepp Holzer, guys that were already visionaries of nature and now we need a structure change. And they started thinking of that. But the most powerful thing about those books, I think at least, were the principles, like the 12 permaculture principles they present and the ethics. So those ethics and those principles move permaculture into another level, which is what you just said, my friend, which is permanent culture. No, we move from the concept of agriculture to all the areas of our life in the flower of the permaculture to say, how can we develop a human culture that can be sustained in the planet for a long time, right? So then it comes bioconstruction, social technologies, new ways of doing economy, of stewarding the land, animals, energy, all these other concepts that also need to do for sustainability, right? And then as time passed, and this is like the other part they did with their books, they had all these beautiful diagrams, right? Of how can we mix plants and elements and structures to match a lot of functions in the same place. So that developed into the other side of permaculture, which is the specialized permaculture, which is at least what I do. That is design of living systems, right? If you ask Bill Mollison, what is the definition of permaculture? He got like 10 different ones. And he was probably saying something different every workshop that he did, no? But there's this tendency, also Holmgren followed this path. Holmgren, the other partner of Mollison, like Mollison became the superstar of permaculture, went all around the world, like making a fabulous advertisement of it. Sometimes went too far, saying that it was like an absolute solution for a lot of things. But he did teach thousands and thousands of people all around the world. Holmgren did quite the opposite. He remained silent, went to Meliodora in Australia, which is his house, and proved the theory that in 1 hectare, a family could live pretty well, right? And after that, like after a lot of time, I think it was 2008, he published a new book of the new principles of permaculture. I really encourage you to search for that book. And then he like thinks again all the principles after Mollison is gone, and he has a lot of time to experience this in his farm, and he remakes all these principles. So you are gonna see like really different information from the beginning to the later permaculture, no? And with this, I just want to say something that is just my experience. I think permaculture right now, it's a toolbox, no, of different strategies, design approaches, and also it's a knowledge base, right? Because there's a lot of people all around the world developing new ideas. But what permaculture will be on the future, it totally depends on us. It's a really new concept still, even that it was made in the 60s, 70s. Now it's getting from the early adopters to the widespread public, right? Like now there's a lot of pioneers and a lot of people coming to know permaculture. And it's really important that we don't stay with what has happened already, because it's just so new. We need to develop a lot in this permaculture knowledge. There's one other definition that I really like about permaculture, which is the union, the marriage between the old and the new, right? Because when we are talking about decreasing our lives, we are talking about transition, we're talking about new paradigm shift. We are never talking, at least from my perspective, we are never talking about going back, right? We are not going back to the life of our ancestors. We are mixing our new life full of technology and new approaches with all that old cosmovision, right? So, and this is really important, because at the core of permaculture, it's the philosophy. You know, we talk about the 3 ethics. Can somebody in that room tell me which are those 3 ethics? I can hear you, Oscar.
Ya te voy a hacer una pregunta. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so what was the last question you asked? Okay, let me drop this. Can you hear me?
Okay, somebody in the room can tell me which are the 3 permaculture ethics?
the 3 permaculture edits.
Okay, somebody in the room can tell me which are the three
Ethics.
permaculture ethics.
Ethics. Okay, three permaculture ethics is the question. Does anybody know these? Is anyone? No.
Nobody. Okay.
Ethics. Okay, three permaculture ethics.
Something that is good for the environment and something that is good for, I don't know what's the third one.
Okay, he said something good for you, something good for the environment.
Okay, it's okay. Perfect. Let's revise those.
Fair share.
Okay, yeah. Let's revise those a little bit because they may look simple. Like if you are studying permaculture and get to the ethic, that is the first part, you could say like, oh yeah, let's go on, no? But it's like the core foundation. It's like the 3 legs which all these philosophy is standing, because otherwise, if we don't have those 3 ethics really clear, you know what, you could get everything out of permaculture and just stay with the 3 ethics, and that will work anyway. Okay, because taking care of the earth is knowing that we just have one home, right? So it gets us to the planetary vision of taking care of all life, because life is sacred, because life, even that we don't understand why some being or why some people are as they are valuable because of their diversity. We don't need to know them, but if nature or God or whatever give us life to us and to them, and we share the same house, that should be the starting point, right? All the governments, all the actions that we take, all the investments, all the transformation of land should be coming from this change of paradigm. The earth, the wellness of the earth should be the rule which everything is measured with, first of all. If we just got that right in our society, then we will be changing just about everything, right? Second ethic, it's also super simple, but super important, and it's people, right? Taking care of people, which is encompassed inside taking care of the earth, right? Anyway, but taking care of people means 3 simple things. People need to have a roof, people need to have food, and people must have education. If you can provide those 3 to people, then you can ask them to not harm the environment. You can ask them to work together towards a regenerative future. But without this care of people, we can't ask for people nothing. So that's super, super important. We can't be going around judging people. Like, I just want to share a super short story of myself, which is I came to live to the country a long time ago, like 10 years ago. And when I started here, I was super enthusiastic about permaculture. And soon I realized that I was being kind of a moron with the people that was growing food there, because there are like people growing food all their lives, making their living out of the earth. They know a lot of it. And then this white boy comes and tells them how to do things, and tells them that they have been doing it all wrong all their lives. And first I didn't understand it, but I was getting like bad reactions, or respectful but like distancing relations for a lot of people, right? And it took me a long time to see that I can't be judging, or I can't go around like telling people how to do things if I can't prove it to them, no? If I'm not aware of their reality too, because maybe I'm just overstepping their reality, no? And even if I think that I'm right, that's not nice for nobody, and I'm not gonna achieve any result, right? So yeah, taking care of people, and at the end taking care sharing all the resources. It's like the destruction of our capitalist system, right? Like Bezos and all these guys should be sharing a little bit with the people that doesn't have enough, right? And it's also like inside our societies and in the money game, like put these rules, put these like basic measures, so everybody got a share, right? So it's so simple. It's so simple that sometimes I'm like repeating that myself, but it's so important. If we got those 3 right, we are really changing the world. And if we start implementing those 3 in our lives, it can really change our worlds. And this brings us to the second element, super basic element of permaculture, which is sonification, that I found so valuable. Because as I was telling you, when I was 16, 17, I was living in the street. I was just like really fighting government, whatever. And that didn't work because I was in my zone 1, going to my zone 5, right? Trying to change the zone 5, right? The world, changing the world. And that doesn't work. We don't have that strength, no? It's like the pattern of the drop that goes to the water, and in the center got the most energy, and when it starts getting away, it dissipates, right? So how can I try to change the world if I don't change myself, if I don't start changing my zone 0, my being, myself? No, that's where the permaculture ethics come in, and that's a long life learning, no? Learning to take care of people, of the earth, and sharing. I think we got enough homework for all of our lives, right? and it also goes into this like longer term, right? Because we're not thinking about us only. At least I'm not thinking about me only. I was like super hopeful about children, and it was like, come on, I don't want to have children in this world. But after permaculture and everything, it gave me this drive to work for future generations. Now my life had a sense, no? Because otherwise it was like, yeah, let's look it born, or I don't know why I'm doing this, no? But future and past generations, like holding this like, wow, what's the word in English? This.
Ok, so, te voy a hacer una pregunta. Dame un segundo, que acabe aquí el audio. Ya estamos a paz. Un segundo. Okay, so Santiago, yes, Diego has arrived as well. So this is our third panelist for the day. This is Diego Zamora. He just did a syntropic agroforestry course, and he will be sharing with us some of his learnings, and will be sharing with us this map that you guys see on the screen. This is a project that a lot of the community members and guests are here at the moment. I would like to kind of take some closing remarks from you guys, as in permaculture space. Any maybe suggestions you could have for that map that you would say, oh, this seems like this would be a good idea to put here for this reason, or definitely don't do this because it's too close. Anything you can think of that. And then the rest of the half hour or hour, we're gonna, you guys are obviously, I understand if you have schedules, if you'd like to stay along, we'll be kind of shooting what we'll be drawing on this map, as we'll be, Diego will do an intro, and then we'll be kind of applying the suggestions you guys leave with us, and then suggestions from what he's learned onto this dry erase board that we have here. Floor is open to you guys. If you guys want to kind of share anything, please do.
Okay, can we see the map in the screen?
Yes. Let me put this up. Yeah, 1 second, 1 second. Okay, so this is the map. Yeah, 1 second.
Okay, so I can share something there? Good. Okay. Private jardines, restaurante. Well, my suggestion here, like at least how I work, is starting by the real map. I probably you got more maps than this. I don't know. But normally for a map, we do like between 5 and 13, 14 layers, right? Starting with the sectors. So I'm having like the real map. We do drone mapping too, so we have like high definition maps and like elevation maps. I think that's super important, like gathering all the information you can about your map, which plants are already there, which are the big trees, where there's like an accident, like pinpointing in the map all these observations of the actual land and marking those elements. That really helps a lot. And then doing the sector map, where does the wind comes, at what speed is coming, where are the potential risks for fire, for noise, for access, for whatever, no? Like putting all this sectoring around the land. I think an amazing way to approach map design is the Renegerative scale. I don't know if you have heard of it, but we put layers from the scale of permanence, what we cannot change, and then go to what we can actually modify. No, so we start by climate, then we move to geography, then we do water, all the waterscaping, then we do the roads and the access. Then we do the agroforestry, then we do the buildings, then we do the energy. Like in a whole, there are like some difference between people doing this system, but that really helps us getting the best out of our design. And maybe I could just share a moment, like super fast, my screen so you can see some of the maps I do. If it's good, if not, we can go with the ideas. Okay. So, okay.
Yeah, please. There's a share button right below.
Okay, I think I hit it. You see my screen there?
Please, there's a share button right below. Yeah. Please.
Okay, yeah. Okay, there you see it, right? So this is the general idea, conceptual design of the farm we are building here in Costa Rica right now. We got some ponds, and it's like pretty complex design, but this is how it looks at the end. But getting to here, it's like a long process. Let me. Okay. So, for example, for all this process, we do all these maps, right? So, for example, we got here the sonification, like which are the energy patterns within the land. Okay, come on. It's going, okay. So for sonification, right? Zone 1, zone 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So this is how we'll manage the energy there. We got like the topography map. We got the general uses. We got like all the sectorization of it. The water strategy. This is like for the general land. So here you can see this is like the detail of the farm with the topography.
Yeah, these maps are super beautiful.
Yeah, this is just like an overlap of my annotations and the topography that we did with the drone and the Google Earth map. So also, I just want to say Google Earth is amazing, people. Like you can really get some really nice designs and share them with other people. So I encourage you, if you are into the way of designing, to check out Google Earth. And so yeah, they're like when you are in a big project, they become really complex process, right? So having the most maps you can, it's really great. Anyway, the map is not the territory, as they say. Like, let me see if I can show you some. Yeah, the map is not the territory. Like we can plan a lot, and at the end, our plans probably will be good for not much. But planning is essential. Planning is super important because here you have like, okay, I know what can I do. Okay. Here you have like your chess, your board, no, your game board. And with this game board, you can really get up into time before you make your mistakes. And that's what I found so valuable about permaculture design. And I just want to share you, like, this is the drone mapping that we get to do. This is one project we just finished implementing for agroforestry and pond. This is before it was full anyway, but yeah, like drone mapping really gets you to see all the detail and gives you like really nice information too. So I always start from this. This is a plant health map where you can see the photosynthetic activity. Here's an elevation map from a digital surface model. So you can take all volume, height, distance, measures, whatever, and it's super useful. I always start doing something like this. Okay. Yeah, that will be my comments right now. I don't want to take too much time.
Wow, really nice. Okay,
Yeah, that
beautiful.
will be my comments right now. I don't want to take too much time. Okay.
Oh, really nice. Okay, beautiful. Oh, really nice. Okay, beautiful. Lily, any closing comments or anything you'd like to share before Diego's going to do a presentation of himself, and then
Yeah,
we'll,
awesome.
hit this
Well,
up.
thank you so much, Oscar. And what a great group. And I would, yeah, I mean, Justo, what I was saying before, I think agreed totally with maps and getting, looking at, we also use a lot the Renegerative scale of permanence. And I think it's a wonderful guideline of designing, prioritizing what can you not change, and then, going down the line towards what can we change, where can we intervene with the system. So I would second all of that on the maps, and then again, like really focus on building your your perennial infrastructure first, and looking at every project as something that happens in stages of evolution. I think the biggest mistake that we see people make is trying to make their final design that's on paper, forcing that to happen first. And look at natural succession, look at the native patterns and the natural patterns that are in wherever you are, there is knowledge. The plants are telling us what to do. We can always reference wherever we are in the world. We can look at what are the patterns of the plants that have been here for millions of years. How do they build ecology? How do they build different systems, and design our systems off of that? So we loved being with all of you today. Please also connect with us on Instagram, all those different platforms, and we'd love to connect with you all, and we wish you all much success. And thank you so much to the whole Regen team for inviting us and being here. We'll be here for a little bit to love to hear the second part, and then yeah, all the best to all of you. And it's so exciting that there's so many people thinking and working on these issues. So yeah, wonderful to be here with all of you today.
Cool, thank you guys. So we are, give me 1 second, let the audio catch up. Cool, thank you guys. Yeah, Dana, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the group? We're really grateful for you guys all being here. Please share.
Yes, thank you so much. Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Dana Gutierrez. I am the project manager in Phoenix Farm, from Phoenix Farms, and we are so happy to be here. I'm happy to see that there are more people who wants to make a change. So in the last 3 years, I have had the opportunity to know and learn more about the permaculture and also about the project management. So how important it is to talk about something comprehensive and multidisciplinary, and above all resilient is talking about creation of something new without thinking about the impact on the environment, on the new generation, should sound unreal, no? So let's talk, plan, design the spaces for the future for the present. So it's good to be here.
Our audio's catching up, and I'll ask you guys a question in 1 second. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys for doing what you're doing. Like, your work directly impacts the environment, is observing nature and mimicking nature. Model success, be success. And this is my biggest draw to permaculture as a system. So you guys are welcome to stay. Diego is going to be doing a intro, sharing some stuff about his course, and we'll continue streaming live as we start working on this dry erase board that we have here. So thank you guys for being a part of the call and joining. And Diego, let's get up. We have your presentation. We're going to be sharing his presentation with us. Give me a second. Okay. Woo, Diego! Yeah, so
both ways. I heard like the old-fashioned.
Yeah, I'm putting your thing up here. You shared it here, Jules?
Now thanks to Antonia. The quickness of.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, so Diego Zamora is the owner of a wonderful community space in Aquamall, a space that we co-created a regenerative community in last year. Brought a group of people excited about the environment and environmental activism together, helped bring the space to higher levels of sustainability with more solar power and water systems. I learned humidals from Diego, who is an architect, and shared a lot of the wisdoms that he learned from The Barefoot Architect, a really practical book about systems that work in the jungle and in different places. Diego recently did a syntropic agroforestry class and is going to share with us some of the things he picked up from it, and we will be working together on this dry erase board so we can implement some of that knowledge onto a practical application scenario. So let me open this.
I'm not an expert. I'm just I learned something in another place, and I'm going to transmit what I learned. So you can ask me, but sometimes I will not know, and I just have to be honest. I'm learning as well, and now I'm implementing it in the land. So that's how we are going to learn better. Seeing the plants. That is really true what she said. When you see the plants, you get to know what they are telling you, and you know when you have to transplant them or put different soils. So it's really important that to see the plants.
Okay, I'm trying to put it on the screen. Give me a second. Can you see that? Okay, we can start with the. Yeah, we can start with this. You want me to hold this for you? Okay. Yeah, give us an intro. Share with us some of the things that you learned.
Yeah, well, agroforestry in tropics, what I learned is that how we can grow food in the forest without cutting trees, without damaging the soil. Here is not damaging the soil, here is redoing the soil because we don't have soil, almost everything is rock. So what I learned in the north is that we are in abundant system here. We have a lot of trees, a lot of magic in the jungle. We can still transform it, and we can still transmutate this energy that is managed to the ground when we cut a tree without like cutting from the ground, just like in the sides. When we cut it like that, we stress the tree, so we stress the land. And as probably you all know about that, that makes more nutrients to the ground, and it makes what you plant there grow faster and better. And also helps that the percentage of light is higher. Here we have almost, well, over there we have more trees and jungle, so we have to cut more, almost 90% of the leaves. All of that is really good for biomass because it's a process of several months, and right now, last month, we started with a process of getting the biomass and cutting the trees. So we are preparing the ground right now. Preparing the ground so later we don't have to put too much soil or too much soil from other places. So right now we're creating the biomass and scouting the best places to do the line. Sometimes it can be in a straight line where we're going to plant stuff, or it can be curves, it can be organic, it can be like the trees are telling you, the plants are talking to you. So that's the main thing to first assess, not just come and cut and do, I'm going to do a permaculture. No, it's like checking the trees, where they go. They will help you out in the stress system. So just getting aware of the trees around. And with that, start cutting, trimming, and putting the ground. Then, then we have a lot of species that we can change, like we can put in this.
Okay, I got it. It's on the screen now.
Always an old-fashioned
tool. It's on the screen now. It's on the screen.
Okay. Okay. You can go a little bit down.
There's a little
We're
delay.
lagging a little bit in time.
Yeah, there's a little
so it's
delay,
gonna
so
be
it'll take it a
interesting.
few seconds. It's coming. It's gonna
Wow,
take-
that's funny. I was starting that project several years ago, the Selva Comestible Bacalar.
So this is the guy who I learned from. This is he showed me some of his presentation. He's having a course in Bacalar, the 23 to 24. Someone is interested, he can.
Bacalar.
This is the guy who I learned.
Okay, further down.
A little bit down. So coincidentally, this guy is from Quintana Roo and he was teaching in northern Mexico. So I learned it over there, but he's from here. So he knows better how these crops are. So this is the basic. What is la agricultura sintrópica? Busca crear selvas comestibles abundantes que imiten los principios de la naturaleza. So this say that it will create abundant jungle that imitates the principles of nature. Integrating species of frutales, maderables, the one that you cut to get some wood, natives or exotics, as together with some hortalizas or agrícolas. So basically you can do anything. You can grow whatever you want if you know how to mix them, and it's unlimited. It's planted with high density and diversity, optimizing the use of light, water, and the mass of production. This is the principle of syntropic agroforestry. And then, yeah.
5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
So this is how it works, or how he taught me. Like we don't have a monoculture. We have a plenty of trees, depending on the time wise that they live. You plant them, and depending on the size, so you scarce them like in a planned way. So if the coconut is going to last until 20 years, so you can get coconut, you put it in the center, and then its shade helps the other one, so it doesn't be so sunny. So it's like a mechanism of helping each other. That is the syntropic in the agroforestry. And from there we have all of them, like we have spaces in between them, 3 meters, 4 meters, so we can grow the biggest trees. But in between we have the one that you're going to always cut. So like giganton is the name in Spanish. I don't know how it's just like a green grass that grows, and you cut them so you can make more biomass. You always need biomass to create more products. The land is what really matters in this, and how we can grow better. That's what I understood and learned. So we always have biomass in between the lanes, and some others come in between. Here, what he explained is that we need to have a plan, a full plan of it, like assess everything, how much rain does it come, how much humidity is in the place, which trees you have, the native ones, which can help you to grow it better. So it's planning it first, so we can make it better, or we can make it a little bit more sustainable. This is a different type of species, not the species, but a different type of how we can, the plagues, how can we avoid them, or naturally with each other plants, like garlic, or like plants, like aromatic plants that they can help us. Can you go a little bit down, please? So it's really beautiful, because I think, like all of you know, it's a collective work among in the ground. That if we do it great, we can just have a lot of food. So the principal characteristics is in the design of the function and to manage the great productivity in a culture. The production. Well, it says the granos or los frutales, so it's basically what what you can see is in this abundant place we can grow mostly everything, but some other like we don't use them. Why we need some cactus in the place? In Mexico we have a lot of cactus and they work like gels, so they can trap water from the environment. And if we put them in the corners or in between each 3 meters of the permaculture garden, we can have always water in. Because later we talk about the water system, but that is a natural water system to have always in your plantation, to have cactus in between them. Can we go a little bit? So that's a good recommendation that I saw over there, and it worked because they scarce more of water. But here we have abundant, but still it's always useful to have cactus in the place, just to work as a sponge. This is the design we did in the other place of how it's really similar to what we're going to do here. It's just a square in this area. But how it's managed, the green areas are the biomass, so we can still always create biomass. Hortalizas are the ones like beans, like all the little like berenjenas, how to say this, verduras.
Vegetables?
Vegetables.
Roots, yeah, root vegetables.
Roots and vegetables. And in the middle, we have the big trees that can expand and can grow lemons, mango, papayas. They all grow in the middle. So they can have big space to expand.
Nice. Done?
A little bit down, please. I will not explain all of this because it's too much things, but it's basically what we can grow and what we can do.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. At the beginning, he shared how the purpose of agrocentric agroforestry, same as permaculture, is to observe the things nature does and kind of pack it all in to make it as efficient as possible based on the natural system that's out there. So like the topic with the bugs that ate all of these passion fruit. The trick, like Diego shared, is to put different types of plants, not just all passion fruits, because if something comes, it's going to eat everything. Instead, you put some passion fruits mixed with some herbs, mixed with some kind of root plants. And this, as a natural protector, even the rows of biomass, attract the bugs and defend the actual plants you want to protect from the bugs. So yeah, really cool to hear how it works.
Also the little center of the avocado, you can peel it, you can put it to burn, like to boil. And that also, with an atomizer, you can also spray them in things, and it's a natural protection. It also works really good. It just turns red, and it's really acid, so animals and insects will not like it. That's a natural ways to help it.
The avocado seed?
The avocado seed,
So
yeah.
boil it and use that water to spray.
But when you rayar,
you peel it, like scrape it?
Yeah, scrape it.
Okay.
When you scrape it, you boil it, and then you get the red thing, and then it's super acid, so
nice.
you spray it.
Peppermint oil also is another thing for ants. Peppermint
It's
oil,
a natural way to
spray it all
protect.
over your plants, and it won't affect the plants, but the peppermint oil will keep away those bugs.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Just mix with water. And spray.
Is it actually true that coffee grounds work as well?
Yeah, they work, but more like a substrate, like to make the soil more fertile, more good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have used that for that, and it has worked. And also, if you put it in the base, also not too many insects will be attracted. Yeah, it's also work. Okay, so this is the concept of how is placed the plants. So here is the nopal, the cactus that I was telling you. They put it on the last parts just to work as gel. In the down part also goes the frijol, canavalia. Is a red frijol, red bean, and that grows as well in the back end of the. This is the pathway. So in this way you walk, and in the upper side or the last side you grow these things. The maderables, things that you will always continue to cut and to stress the ground. They're basically all the plants and trees that we have here. So they will just stay there, and we'll just trim a little bit the trees. So these are already in their place, and we just have to play with the design, how we can make these lines to most manage to these trees to be in the middle. The Pasto Rey grass, or el gigantón, is what we have in this area, and it's what used to be just grass that grows like this size, and you just cut them, so you can you cut them and put it there in the center, so we have more biomass, and that will always give you nutrients to the plants. And La Higuerilla, this is something of over there. This is not applied for here. It's another plant from the north.
Is that grass the same as this one, or is it different grass?
Yes, it's similar to this one, but it's not used for that. It's more thin, the grass, but it's similar to this one. Yeah. They grow a lot in south, like in Bacala. So this is the concept of how it will grow in the future, how we already have some of these trees there placed, how this, depending on the time of the plant, it will start growing at this size, and then probably this will stay at that size, and the other one will just continue growing. They all have a date of birth and a date of when they die, so you just have to check them how long it will, like the papaya, it will last for 10 years. So you will know that you will have to change it in 10 years. So all of this it will be replaced, and some of them, like the initial ones that are there, they will always be there just for being trimmed. But the rest has a life matter. And it's just the way how it will look in the future, how it will grow at different scales and spaces, and then some will start dying. It's a lifetime. Please. So this is another example how it was supposed to be looking at, how instead of just being just a single monocrop, it will have different varieties. And in the ground, we'll have all the vegetals and all the things that go in the ground, watermelons. So this is an example of how it will be, and the size, depending on the tree.
Yeah, so like this, you make different kinds of climates, right? Some trees require more sun. Other trees require a bit of shade. So you kind of pair them together so that the taller trees, like Lily mentioned, create microclimates, spaces where different types of plants can succeed better than just planting a whole field of the same kind of thing.
And this is how we can explain it. This is how the map or the little line that we were seeing before, this is more in zoom. So we have the maize or the corn that is growing there in between each 1 meter more or less. The red bean that goes on the back end of the same line, with the calabaza and camote and zucchini, that goes in between. So they are all mixed in the same line, and even in the same line, if you have space enough, you can put another type of things. So you just need to follow like these adjustments that is here, like to put them together so the nutrients underground help each other and the plants grow easier. So here we can plant chile serrano or pimiento morrón, arugula, cilantro, how do you say arugula, cilantro?
Arugula. Coriander.
Coriander. The coriander, rábano. Well, later I can tell them in English, but you have this type of things that we can grow in this area, and they will get along well if we mix them in this way. And we can grow also kale and acelga, some other leaves down there.
And so in this example, the red beans are legumes, right? These are these kinds of plants that create pods, and these kinds of plants add nitrogen to the soil, creating the food that usually farmers have to put fertilizer in. Planting this way naturally brings these kinds of nutrients to the soil.
The beans can grow on the corn to optimize the place of the soil.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that before, but in your draw the beans grow at the floor, no?
Yeah, some of them can grow, but we like tomatoes. If we manipulate them, we can grow them on top of a tree as well. So we are doing that as well. So once they are already on the ground, we can manipulate them and put them up. In that case, they will get more sun, so it will be more easy for them to grow. And when you have more sun, is here especially, we see how they get bigger. So we can have a small tomato like this, but if we get more sun, they will just grow. And this is another way, like in the same line, how we can also mix the avocado with some corn and tomato, as well as papaya and gigantuan and frijol in the outside. So it's just a mix. The way how you mix them is how this is already proven by this class. This is a special fruits that they will help each other in syntropic. Yeah. So also if we mix in that same line, if we have more space, we can put other plants like a mango or orange or lemon, and we just have to scarce them in the place, so we can also get these other plants as coconut and avocado. Savila, that is also like a cactus that can get more water for the space, and maguey. So jaca and yucca, they are growing underground. But we need them. We need all of these variety of species to mix them and get more strength to each plant. And this is a perfect match for this place. So if you want to just like grow something, I recommend to do something else.
And so this is again how he showed that picture of like the tall trees in the middle, right? Papayas, avocados, mangoes are taller trees. And then to the side of that are middle range trees, things that grow on bushes. And then one level below that are the rooting plants, the yuccas, ginger, turmeric is another good one. All rooting.
Yucca, yeah. All the ones who grow underground. And
yeah. So it's a stratification, right? Layers of plants. And so Diego is doing all of this beautiful stuff at Ecomal, which he's going to share a bit. This weekend there is an eco fair there, which will be an event. Tell us about it, Diego. We're excited.
Yeah, we are also making this eco fair annually. We started last year with Oscar and the crew to make this awareness, wake up of our awareness of people, and we gather a lot of people talking about ecology, talking about healing, personal healing. So we will have a big event. It's a family style event, and we invite all of you, all of this great community, so we can co-create things together there, and you can enjoy this beautiful day with 2 pools and a pole dance and temazcal and like all these activities, holistic activities that we will have. And all the talks all day long will be like this talk of today, but many other experts of their field, and talking about what they like, and they will share experiences and knowledge with people like us. So, welcome if you want to come. It's here at 10 minutes away.
Cool. All right. So, thank you, Diego. Thank you. Now, Diego has just done this awesome course of agroforestry. And we, Diego, have here a community that is near Tulum, sanctuary owned. This is Flow. This is a space of Flow. And this is the community of his that is joining. Let me get a different chair. Hold on. So our goal is to share. I'm going to get another chair. Hold it there.
Can we get the like purpose and the mission of this space? Because I'm not clear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that might be helpful for designing.
This is a
half-hectare space.
Half-hectare.
Should I go over there? Or just from here? Well,
Yeah,
Sure. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
curious,
come on,
like,
come on.
what's
just like a briefing, no?
yeah.
So you also may understand. I'm sure you Diego. Just, hello. Just a brief briefing, so we will understand. Actually, I want to do something weird.
Okay.
I hope it works. Okay. So,
Nice.
this is a piece of land, 3 miles, 2 miles from Tulum downtown, going west towards Bacalar. And basically we are, it's 100 meters east to west. And then it's 50 meters south to north. So north is over there, right? And so it's 100 meters this way, it's 50 meters this way. And we divided the land like into sectors, like right in between, at the middle. We have this section over here, which is 12 cabins. And then this section over here, 50 meters, we have the restaurant. Well, the front desk is going to be here, the kitchen, like a dome, the yoga shala, a couple dorms over there, and the wellness area. So it's a jungle. We pretty much respected basically all the trees. So we have, like here, you know, we have a lot of trees. And what else should I say? Oh, the purpose. The purpose is going to be a community where we're going to offer life-changing retreats. And also it's going to be a place where people can host retreats. We'll have a capacity of around 36 people, 12 cabins, you know, and then 2 dorms. Right now we have 5 cabins almost ready. We have the kitchen, the front desk, palapa is almost done, the yoga shala could be finished this week, the wellness area would be finished maybe like in 10 days, and the sweat lodge. So that's the purpose, you know, and the idea is to bring together 3 types of audiences, like, you know, guests who come for a life-changing retreat. Then we have temporary residents, like all these guys here. They came from all over the world to have an experience volunteering. Some of them stay for a week, some of them have stayed longer, like a couple months or something like that. And then we would also have like more permanent residents. So that's the idea, to have that blend of people living there, basically. Right now, we have not started doing any food growing. We would like in the future. Basically, the idea here was each cabin has its own private garden, 15 by 50 meters. So it's a 225 square meter space. So basically, the idea is to do a little natural fence between each cabin for privacy.
So each wall will have kind of like a natural fence.
Exactly.
Here, here.
Exactly. So the original idea, for example, one mistake we did at the beginning is that when we started, the first part was, how do you say that in Spanish, where they clean the land? There's a word for that.
The energy, or like
no, like actual physical, because you know you can almost not walk in the jungle, so you have to kind of clean it so at least you can walk. Chapear, exactly. Chapear, no? So I have no experience. I had never been, you know, like I had never done any project in the jungle. So I hired these Mayan guys to do the chapeo, meaning cleaning the land so at least you can walk, right? But then I had to go out of town for 4 days. And they overclean it, you know? They overclean it. I mean, they didn't know, of course, any trees, but so now we are at the point that if they would have only cleaned the spots where the cabins were going to be, we basically had all the natural fences there already because it's thick, you know? So now we're at the point that we need to plant something
here to share his
to
agrocentric magic.
have those type of fences. You know what I mean? So that was a mistake.
About
Because
practical
as I said,
application of
if they would have only cleaned these spots right here, it would be dense enough so you could actually not see, you know, because between this cabin and this cabin is 15 meters. So you could actually need no fence because it's a thick jungle. So what we did then was, the original plan was to plant chaca trees every meter. So we planted, you know, chaca trees are these red trees that you cut the branch, and then you plant it, and then a new tree comes. But then we plant those during the rainy season, and later we knew that those trees, if you plant them in the rainy season, there's too much water for them.
Yeah.
So a lot of them died. We planted like, easily like 400, and maybe, can you guys estimate how many we have? Maybe we have 100, which, you know, but a lot of them died. And then we started growing.
Because it was too dry or it was too wet?
It was too wet.
It was too wet.
It was
The
too wet.
sticks that you just buried.
Yeah, basically you don't even bury them at the beginning, you just leave them there. Because if you bury them, it's too humid and they die.
Oh, wow,
So you
okay.
just leave them there, you know, or you do it like now, for example, you know, but not during the rainy season.
It's kind of like planting trees in the winter in the colder climates. You plant the trees usually during the winter and you trim them during the winter too because they're more protected in a protection mode. You know, they're like more robust, and in the summer they open up, and that's why they could get drowned.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that we didn't knock any trees. I mean, those trees, you just cut branches and you plant the branch. So, you know, there was no tree cutting. But we lost a lot of branches. And then the plan was to plant the chacas every meter, and then in between to plant the passion fruits. So we grew them from seed, and just when they were ready to be, you know, you have to wait until they have 3 sets of leaves, and then this big. Just when we just ready for like almost, tomorrow we're gonna do that. I mean, it was so weird. Overnight, like what happened with the passion fruits? We suspect it was the ants, because they were gone from one night to the other. And we had at least 500 of those seeds. No? So they were gone. So right now we are like, maybe you can give us some ideas, you know? Because what we did here for fences now, we planted, we did like the guano leaves, but now it's like, you know, it's too brown. They look nice, but it would be nice. So we're thinking of planting like crawlers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, we can start from scratch, maybe the passion fruit, but that takes some time. I mean, it took, I remember distinctively, we planted those passion fruits from seed on October the 27th last year. And by February, that they were ready to be planted. It took them November, December, January. It took them almost 4 months to grow this big.
Yeah.
And just when they were ready, like, they were gone.
They got eaten. Yeah.
So we're looking for alternatives on what to do, just to bring some green to those fences in between the cabins.
Okay, so some goals for the project, right? They want to grow some natural fences with some plants. Maybe you learn some regional plants that could be good.
How is the soil?
Well, the soil we have basically.
They need to
same,
make
you know.
soil first.
Maximum,
Yeah.
we were lucky,
Right.
20 centimeters, sometimes 30, sometimes 40,
Yeah.
and then just rock.
Yeah.
You know, there's some parts, like for example, specifically this cabin is like all rock. It's super hard.
Right.
Some other ones we
Right.
are lucky and we can go as deep as 40 centimeters. I believe that's the max.
Right. So yeah, I think he asked this first question of how's the soil? Because in this region especially, the first thing you have to focus on is creating soil,
Yeah.
generating soil. They told me that you guys are starting kind of a compost area here.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is going to be really important as you guys are creating organic waste from what you're eating, but also all the trees that have been cut around the area or in the area that you're doing. You can
You can have a mulcher probably.
There you go,
With
yeah.
a mulcher combined with the compost that you generate, you create the soil.
Yeah, right now, for example, here, They just opened a road.
Yeah, right.
And they're knocking like so many trees and so much. I mean, we have tons of material.
Right.
You know, because this tree was just a little thing, but now they're making it wider.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have tons of material that we can.
Do you have mulcher?
Mulcher, no.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Mulcher is the one thing that
El picador, yeah.
you feed it here and it goes.
Yeah, it will help you a lot. It's a big land, so you can have a lot of biomass there.
Yeah.
Here is a way to combine it with compost that you have, and you have the nutrients. But as you said, it grows super little. It's because of the soil. We have not soil enough. I bought some orange trees, and we put them in a base like this of soil, really good soil with a lot of substrates and extracts. And when they hit the rock, they start dying, and we were like, what is happening? So we changed them of place where they were more soil, and now they're growing. Mm-hmm. But it's super, super basic. Here, if they hit the rock, they will kill your plants, most of the time. So the soil is really, I think it's the greatest investment at the beginning.
Yeah. But how long do you think it will take until we have enough soil?
Well, it depends on the machine that you have to make it small pieces. That helps a lot in making things faster. Mm-hmm. And because as you can delay 3 years, you can delay 3 months. Okay. So you can have this process accelerated. And because naturally it will take a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of following the natural cycle of how nature works, right? These pioneer trees, a lot of these trees that you see here that don't make fruit, their job is to break the rocks, like what Diego was saying. When the roots hit the rocks, most trees are not strong enough to break those kinds of rocks. Their focus is to make fruit. So these kinds of trees break open those rocks and eventually fall and die. And after hundreds of years, they decompose and turn into soil. We can improve that process, speed up that process, like Diego said, with a mulcher, something that chops up the trees into pretty much dust. So you make layers of trees that you chopped up like that, organic compost, like from the waste of the food that you guys are eating, potentially dry toilets is another really, really good way to do it, right? Our bodies are mulchers. We eat stuff and we make waste. This waste can be used strategically with a lot of these trees that are chopped up as a carbon source. Our waste, or the organic waste that we make, becomes the nitrogen levels, and you make like what they call lasagna. So a stack of trees, a stack of organics, a stack of trees, a stack of organics. And you leave this in a bin that gets airflow for a few weeks, a few months, and eventually this decomposes into really nice soil. And you can do this in a few months instead of in a few hundred years. So this is part of the important process that facilitates the growth of plants, like these orange trees.
Yeah. If we didn't move it, they will die.
Right, yeah.
4 or 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They hit the rock because they were not growing from the seed. They were already bought like that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
these make them more vulnerable to living in this climate or in this rock. So now we are it's always an experimentation. It's also me. I don't grow knowing this, but I just try and do errors and move things around. It's always moving things and it's like that. What I can recommend you is first to have some beds, probably when you want to put this tree so you can separate it, and then put the chacas in this type of climate. They are really resilient and they can grow easily here. So if you just want to separate, that would be the best. But if you want to grow something, you can have those and then put a mesh, so you can grow tomatoes on it, and that will break the seeing from one person to another, in between the dots, in between the cabins.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with this map in mind, right? They told me they started creating a little bit of a compost area here, so they can start making soil on the property. With what you see here, obviously one of the goals is to create these vertical walls with plants. Maybe we can come up with a list of plants that they could use for that. What are some other ideas, right? Seeing that they have a lot of jungle space open here, a lot of space here, potentially food could be grown on the edges, right? The goal of permaculture, I would say, is to grow food in a sustainable manner, long term. Create soil and grow food so that the system is resilient. in a space like this, from what you learned, what would be maybe some ideas that you have? I would love to.
Well, I learned that like sometimes something symmetric also can help for the water system or the taking care of the things. So if you have some space in a place, it can be used for that, and put also in all of these places things that they grow easily here. That you don't need to probably too much dirt, and it can be papayas, it can be coconuts, all of these places that you want to separate. You can use all of these frutas that I have seen that they grow super easy around here, chayote as well. And in one place, just start growing and putting all the energy, so you can have the systems of watering, really measurement, like 3 times per day or so, because in this dry season, many of them can die super easy.
Right.
So
when is the wet season here?
June to December, more or less.
June to December, and the dry season is the summer.
Right now, yes.
Is now, okay.
Yeah, probably. Right now it's changing until January, almost last of January.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because it's climate change. But
climate change.
More or less, it's
climate change is real, by the way. I'm scared.
Yeah, but more or less it's that June to December what I have seen here.
Right.
And dry season is now January to June, January to May.
Nice.
So just chayotes, coconuts,
Papaya.
One day passion fruits.
One day passion fruits, yeah.
Passion fruits. Or mango, I have also seen that it's really resilient to the place.
Yeah, but mango becomes like a huge tree, no?
Yeah.
Eventually.
You want a huge tree?
Well, we have a lot of trees already. And I don't know if it's going to compete against the...
Yeah, well, that would depend. What do you want? You want just some shade, or you want
we
some
just want
fruit?
basically like, a separation, like a fence. Just a fence, 180. Just also, there's privacy between the canopies. Because we don't really need more trees. We just need that fence for...
For that, you don't need like permaculture system or agroforestry. For that, you just need to cut like the branches and put them in this type of climate. Like in
Yeah,
the
do you want to grow food at all?
Yeah, exactly. Right now our first project is that. But
Is
we
the walls,
maybe
of course.
simultaneously,
Of course.
We're going to start growing food.
Okay, so this is kind of a topic about this. How can we grow food in this space? Because even though you want to start doing that in 2 years from now is when you have to create the soil, get the areas ready. And so we wanted to make a little bit of a plan, right, based on what you currently have as structures. We can see that you have kind of a bit of empty space here. And it's cool that if you do the compost here, this compost is going to provide the nutrient-rich fertilizer, let's call it, that you can use in all of these areas where we could grow rows of trees, right? Like the tall trees, for example, right? What's one example? You could create a row of papayas in areas like this, and then around those rows of papayas, you can add smaller trees and bushes around them on both sides. Right, this is kind of the diagram that Diego shared with us earlier.
And in between the papayas, coconuts.
Right.
Yeah, as well, coconuts or oranges, lemons.
And then
there are trees that they are going to grow like 20, 30 years is their lifespan, or more sometimes, if they're well taken. So you will have always there these trees and vegetation around.
Papayas are like one of the fastest around here. 8 months you'll have fruit. Yeah.
And so one thing you have to remember also, like, yes, there are trees in nature. This is something that was really hard for me when I first started exploring permaculture when we were at Ikumal. It was hard for me to look at a beautiful tree and be like, man, I'm going to cut this thing. I'm going to cut most of the branches. I'm even going to cut the bottom of the tree down. And it's hard to think about this. But this is the process nature follows. We had someone come and do a evaluation of the property once, and she explained it to me so beautifully. The purpose of nature is to create more life. So these kinds of trees are the first level of life, the pioneer trees. After these trees, there's a series of things that happen, right? These get tall, break the rocks, they die, they make dirt, so that one day an animal comes and drops a seed for a plant that grows fruit, right? Fruit is more life than this tree already. And this fruit brings animals, and these animals bring more seeds and more things. So eventually a jungle that looks like this will look like a tropical rainforest in like Costa Rica or in Colombia, where it's full of bananas and naturally occurring fruit and animals. And so this is the long-term goal of nature. So we shouldn't be so scared of, oh, I'm going to cut trees down, as long as we are mulching the trees, getting them in position, turning them into soil that is going to feed the next generation of mango trees that we plant, or papayas, or any of this series of stratified growth to create different kinds of fruit sources. And it's one thing that makes it easier as you're going through it.
Because, for example, one of the ideas was to plant a lot of banana trees.
Right.
But I was like, no, I want to turn this into a banana jungle, and this is not a banana jungle. So we just planted like 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's cool.
But should we plant like, because I can plant a lot of bananas.
And so bananas are great because they hold a lot of water. So a lot of the times you make these like mounds of mulch and dead plants, and you put bananas in the middle. And this becomes like a sponge. So in the wet season, this absorbs a lot of water, and the bananas themselves, trees, absorb water. And in the dry season, this sponge slowly goes into the soil around. So a lot of the times, this central area, you install these kinds of trees, like banana trees or cactuses, that hold the water. So when it's dry season, the plants all communicate with each other, and they understand the system. The ones that hold water end up giving off some of their water so that the plants around them can absorb that water and use it for growth. This is why we don't plant only tomatoes or only oranges. This is a system humans made, and it sucks. It's not good. That's why we're killing soils. That's why the world is becoming a desert. So, yeah.
Part of conservation, sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Part of conservation is also like how we can make a jungle more abundant. So making it abundant, it doesn't mean that we had to cut and plant just one thing. We can trim, and with that make some ground and plant a lot of things. So it's part of conservation also to make it more abundant. And with that, more animals will come, more birds will come, more seeds will be spread. So this is sometimes that I share the same thinking about last year, how we were cutting trees, but we were just trimming them. So it's not cutting them from the ground. That is the purpose, because all trees matter. But if we trim them, we just stress them, and that helps us to make more abundant this jungle by planting the other things.
Yeah, these are the practices of regeneration, right? Sustainability is leaving it exactly the same, and that's cool as well. But nature isn't always the same. Nature evolves and grows, and regeneration is helping that process leave something better than original. If you come in, and of course we're changing nature by cutting and building some things, but if we can leave this forest with trees that have fruit for the animals now, you have effectively made the space better by bringing in more biomass and more life to a space, even though we changed some of the things and ended up cutting some trees down. Right, it becomes a balance, and by doing it consciously and with the right practices, it really helps. Any other ideas, Diego, or anyone have any questions? Any topics? Yeah.
Yo quería preguntar, más o menos estoy entendiendo, pero ¿tienen algún plan acerca de la selección de las frutas por temporada? Es decir, yo una vez estaba sembrando cosas y intenté meter diferentes frutos y me pasaba que había sin saber puesto unas frutas que no eran de esa temporada, y entonces las plantas que sí iban a crecer en esa temporada, sí existía esto como la biomasa de las otras plantas, pero en unas semanas las plantas que estaban creciendo se comían a las otras plantas.
Wow, okay.
Entonces por eso pregunto, ¿no? ¿Hay como algún plan donde en primavera solo van a sembrar cosas de primavera y cuando llegue quizás la temporada de lluvia solo van a integrar las cosas de lluvia para que no haya ese desbalance? O dentro del mismo plan de crear la biomasa va todo junto y en algún momento cada uno va a ir creciendo de manera natural?
Cuando creamos la biomasa, la hacemos para regenerar el suelo. Entonces, con esa regeneración ya tenemos más abundante el suelo y crece más fácil cualquier cosa que plantemos ahí. Claro que por temporadas te va a funcionar mejor, si lo siembras con la luna también te va a funcionar mejor, O sea, tiene sus procesos, de hecho, tiene que ser así, no es como, there's not another option, it's not, because sometimes, because of that, it doesn't grow. So yes, it's by season, and also it's by the moon, helped by the moon, and it's the way how it has to be. We have all the different plants that they can grow, and in which time and which age. So yeah, it's all part of the plan that you have to assess in your own land, and thinking of how much rain does it have, how much rock does it have, how much dirt does it have. So it's a full plan that you have to continue, and you can have anything that you want, but wisely thought and put in the ground.
Okay, so we have some questions.
I want very curious about the evolution of the permacultura in the future.
Where?
Oh,
In Ikumal?
¿Qué?
Where in Ikumal? You have the question?
No, en el futuro del mundo. What do you think about the evolution of the permaculture?
Well, it just depends on us. It's because it's a lot of work, honestly, like to have this permaculture, agroforestry running well. So it depends on each individual of what goal do we have. If we want to regenerate the land, if we want to eat organics, do we want to continue the same lifestyle? So it depends all in ourselves. What do we want? Like we just we want to have this. It requires a lot of work. So, but it has a benefit that you taste the tomatoes and it tastes like heaven. You know, it's super different the taste from the chedraui. So that's why in Ikumal we are focused on having our own garden with fruits and vegetables, and then also the water. We are 76% of water, so we are transforming water so we can have the best minerals that we can get, and it's a hybrid between the rainwater and the cenote water. So yeah, it depends on how much each individual wants.
Okay.
And what is now more development in South America, Central America, or is around Europe?
About permaculture?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen really good things happening in France about permaculture, really in sections, but also in Latin America, and people are getting more aware in a way, like the second, third generation of a farmer that has a lot of land in Brazil or in Mexico that I have seen as well, and they say, okay, I want to have this land, but I want to do it better, and they start seeing the difference in money in economy, how if they have 1 hectare of pure permaculture and how they're selling their products in a different price, they start by that changing their ways of doing things because of the money-wise economy. So that's what I have seen here and in Europe. They're motivated by that.
I want to add something to your comment. Right now, in the world, about 1 out of 100 people are farmers. Okay, so Matt, 1 out of 100 people, for every 100 people, only 1 of them is a farmer.
Now.
Yes. So imagine you had a party and you invited 100 people of your family and friends, and you are the only person that's going to grow all of the food for them, all of those people. It's not sustainable. So the idea is teaching more people how to create more food for themselves. It's okay if they still go to the grocery store and buy food at the store, but they're buying less now. And in the United States, in the wars in the past, they encouraged the people to do victory gardens, and over 50%, more than half of the food during World War II in the US was grown local communities, just growing gardens together and feeding each other and taking care of each other. So that's the old way, and like he said, bringing the new technology with the ancient knowledge is the future. Because the price of food is going up, the price of everything is going up, so it's not going to be feasible anymore. We're going to need to grow our own food, and so it's good. You're in the right place, kind of ahead of many people, but this is one home. We have one home.
So Diego, in your syntropic class, did you learn about hugelkultur? Hugelkultur. It's someone just asked someone asked Mike Lester is the founder of a community in San Miguel Allende. Beautiful space, beautifully designed. I'm going to share it with you when we sit down. He's super cool. He asks about where he lives. It's kind of less tropical than this. They don't have as many trees. So he's asking, are there ways to conserve the biomass that he has to use very effectively? And he brought up this topic of hugelkultur, which I learned pretty recently as well. Essentially, if you guys can see in the pictures here, you create a pile of trees. If you don't have a mulcher, for example, this is a strategy to not have to buy the machine. You can bury big trunks of trees in the base, smaller trees around the edge, and then small leaves and dirt around it. And over time, this pile starts to eat itself. So here you can see after 1 month, after 1 year, after 2 years, after 20 years, it says here. But this is a strategy to create raised beds, kind of how you do here in Riviera Maya, where you have to make structures to plant. This is a less construction-heavy strategy that you could use, that Mike asked if maybe you knew anything about it, Diego, and you could give some... Okay, yeah, I've just looked it up. I've never tried this, but it looks pretty cool. It's a simple way to make essentially nice soil in a space that doesn't have soil. So you just bury the trees. Here are some pictures of you guys to look at.
Yeah, it really, really works well. Very well.
And it's very good for the back. Because
exactly.
You don't have to bend to just pick your things.
And the plants
because it's like this.
like the chayote and any like pumpkin and squash and those family, the squash families or whatever. I don't know the name for them, but they love like half broken down compost sticks and stuff. Like doesn't matter. Like lots of plants need very fine soil sometimes, like fruits and vegetables sometimes to have, but the chayote and like zucchini, cucumber, squash, pumpkins, those things will just they'll eat that up.
Yeah, so
you can guide them up the fence that you make, and then chayote makes 100 pounds of fruit a month when it's a big plant, like a lot.
Like wheat.
It's a staple Maya food, and chayote is.
It's like spinach, right? This is like the.
No, the chayote looks like it's like a mixture between a pear.
Chayote squash.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's like a
okay.
squash, but like it's a fruit. It's
Okay,
kinda
nice.
But it's like a staple Mayan food from this area that helped the Maya people get, like, it's one of their main foods, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so imagine you could potentially use one of these systems at Sanctuary Home. Now that you have so many trees everywhere that you're saying, imagine making, like this picture here, imagine making a hill like this around the edge of the houses potentially. And in this hill, you could start planting different kinds of chayote or even papayas or whatever you could get in there. And it's an easy way to take the trees that are there already and with a little bit of strategy, putting some like dry leaves and some other things on top to help with the process, you could start something like this and create areas where you grow food, right?
How do you spell that word?
Huh?
It's German.
Yeah, it's a German word. Good stuff. Hugel culture. You guys are on it. So yeah,
he just mentioned biochar also.
Yeah, he was asking the question of, right, because Lily mentioned that since here the soil is very permeable,
right.
Everything kind of goes through, that, Mike, if you're listening, which I assume you are, she mentioned that the biochar was used as a way to put at the bottom of the bed so that the nutrients don't just leach through the really porous limestone that exists here. For building soil carbon and moisture retention. She signed off, she had to take another call, but I will definitely message her. Her project, Phoenix Farms, is awesome. She's like a super good point of contact for us on the info. So we'll definitely be following up with her on this.
Well, I can add to that real quick. It's not an or situation, it's an and situation.
And, right.
Because You can put
Biochar
a
underneath
layer
the
of the
hugelkultur.
biochar underneath,
Right.
and as well to the top, because the carbon, it's not just carbon, it's carbon 60. Carbon 60 is like the most fullerene like component type of carbon, and it retains moisture as well, and it's just like super good for the soil. So basically biochar, if anybody doesn't know, is you burn wood and you like cut it up. It's like the burnt wood, that's it. But it's like amazing for the soil. So like layered on the bottom and then sprinkled in top. You can do that with hugelkultur.
Right.
So,
So
for example, we have our stove is fire. So we just collect the char from the
all
stove.
the char from that, yes, man.
Yeah, and that's
So
the
not the
biochar.
dust, just the pieces, because you still need some of the pieces together, and then you can take that and break it up. But like, don't take the soot and the dust. I mean, that's good for adding nitrogen to the soil. But this particularly biochar will have the C60 when it's still kind of burnt, but it's still pieces of wood. You know what I mean?
And so this stuff is really good, even the dust on the bottom, because here in this area, the soil underneath us, it's not soil, it's just rocks. And these rocks have a lot of holes, right? They're porous. So when you pour a cup of water onto this, it essentially filters very quickly into the underground rivers, the cenotes, that are under most of the land here. So what Lily mentioned, and what with this biochar you can do is almost mix it with other things, and it becomes, in a way, a paste. And it kind of creates this layer in between what you're growing, that you need the nutrients to stay on top, and underneath it, if you don't have something protecting, it's just gonna seep into the bottom, which is why it's kind of hard to grow food here. A lot of people use raised beds like this, which very similar to the hugelkultur concept. It's big wood, small wood, and then little pieces of sand and dirt essentially on the top. So this is like beautiful for a plant to reach through the soil, pick up some middle ground stuff, and all of this starts decomposing over time. But this has a bottom, so when it rains, all of that doesn't just flow underneath and flush out. It was a cool suggestion that Lily said to use the biochar as this layer underneath. And it's cool, you're right, totally to combine it. So if you create one of these hills, right, somewhere on the property, underneath it will be really just porous rock. You could create a hill like this, but before you do that, underneath, you put a lot of this biochar mixed with, I don't know, Diego, do you know what you could mix? Like if you mixed like the ashes, what could you mix that with to make like a paste? Something natural, yeah, to put like on the bottom on the rocks and then put the, you know, something natural like a chukumish or clay, right?
Clay, dirt, and some water. I just want to say though, if you're doing raised beds, it's very important to make sure there is drainage at some point.
Right.
Because if it's just a capturing thing, you're gonna get fungus and bacteria and anaerobic bacteria that's not like aerated. So like even just one little, drill a hole through the bottom, one small hole, and just be aware of the water flow. And make sure there is a flow of oxygen and water so that your stuff doesn't get all...
Yeah, right. It can't be a pool. If it's a pool, everything will drown and you need oxygen in the system. Just like with compost, if the compost isn't turned every once in a while, it eventually gets so squished it doesn't have oxygen inside, and then the bacteria can't make the soil. Okay, any other questions? I think, Diego, you have any other suggestions for this map? Maybe some ideas? Flo, any more questions? Guys, any questions about...
Oh, the entrance.
Right here? Oh, no, here?
Yes, it's, you know, yeah, right there. That's that pathway, and then that's...
Yeah. Yeah, man, dry toilets, cool. To put some dry toilets, right?
Yeah,
Everyone at the community.
Can I share with you our dry toilet technique?
Yeah.
We use it, we have another center in the mountains, the Pusla, where we have a place with like 50 cabins, so we produce a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And are you familiar with this guy? What's his name? Añorbe. He's very famous. Añorbe, he's in Morelos. He's one of the leaders. Well, he shared with us. I asked him, well, what's the best technique for that, you know? Because we're going to have. So he gave us this thing that we use over there very effectively. Basically, we use the cacajon, you know, which is just a bucket where you poo, and then you bring that to a place we built like cisterna. How do you say cisterna in English?
It's cistern.
Like a cistern. So basically, in this case, it's a 3 meter wide by 2 by 180, divided in 2 chambers. On the bottom, we did like really cement, polish, so that's a filter.
Right.
And just put everything there.
From you take los cajones out and you go and you dump it there.
Bucket,
Yeah.
You just, and then you from the top, just leave it there. And it takes months to fill. And once it's full, 4 months later, you just basically soil.
Yeah.
And because it's got a floor is like thick cement, you avoid like infiltration. And that technique has worked very well for us in the mountain. And now we're gonna do, we already did, we're almost finished with that thing. That's the way we're gonna do it.
That's cool.
Here, right? Yeah, he wants it. Should work better because, with the warm and everything.
It's already dry everything, with gasoline or something, it's already dry the
No, we just basically, the people are supposed to use the carton and they have a bucket where they put a cement stuff. And just that bucket, the way you just put into that chain.
You put the whole bucket in, or you just
No,
you dump it? You dump it, right. In between, do you put wood chips?
No, what we do is we feed it with bacteria over there, so it accelerates the decomposition.
Right.
And it basically doesn't smell, and it works really well because it's. The main effort is to put in the bucket there, But once it's there, it's.
Do you have one built already or not yet?
Yeah, we have already.
Cool.
It's already
I would
built.
like to come see them. Yeah, we have to come do updates again.
It's already built.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so we've been updating at Sanctuary Ohm. You guys can check it out on our Instagram highlights. We have a Sanctuary Ohm bubble. We also have a channel in the Discord where Flo and the team are sharing updates from the project. We got to come by and do another update video to see all the progress, right? You have a big team and everyone's been like, I've been seeing everyone working and doing the thing. We're excited to see updates. Okay, guys, does anyone have any more questions? We've been here for a minute. It's almost 5. Anyone? Good? Happy?
The garbage is possible to burn the garbage and put like compost.
What kind of garbage? Organic is better. It's better not to burn the organic because this burns the carbon atoms, and this is what we're using. It's better to take the organic waste and put it in a compost pile and let nature do it by itself, and this makes more nutritious soil. Plastic you have to take to a recycling center. Unless
The place that they don't have recycling, what happens with the
well, there's a recycling center near Tulum. Yeah, you can write solutions. You can take them and use the plastic for other things, like growing small plants, like you were using for the papaya or for the passion fruit, for example.
All of these things that you buy in the auction.
Right. That's the best one.
It has aluminum to make an eco brick.
Or the gas, the gas, what's the name of that gas?
Pet gas.
Pet gas, that's what they're using,
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, but that's a whole giant machine. It's hard. That's.
A way how energy can be transmitted.
Yeah, that's a really cool one, eco bricks. Yeah, right. So taking plastic bottles and filling them with all the little plastic papers and squishing it, and eventually you have enough bricks that you can use this for something. Like at Eco Mall, there's a few walls and a bunch of things that were created using eco bricks.
with the video too? Waste that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Waste is an important one to consider. Okay, you guys. Well, awesome day. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for being here, Flo. Thank you, Diego. Super cool, man, that you learned this. Yeah, of course.
I was not even aware that you guys were going to do this about us.
Yeah, of course, man. This Sunday, Ecoferia is in Eco Mall, which is a little bit down the road from here. The Colectivo takes you there, and it's like a 10-minute walk in the jungle, 15 minutes walk. That'll be on Sunday. We'll be sharing on our Instagram about it. We'll be sharing everything there. Thank you guys for joining.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, please.
So I know this is very short notice, but there was an event that happened here called Tribalize, and there was lots of amazing presentations. and one of them is for Hacienda Tabi in the Yucatan. And so I will be attending. I'm leaving tomorrow, so no pressure, because you can come any week from starting this week. It's this massive mansion. It was a old building that's been around for 200 years, been abandoned for 50 years. But if you want to bring it up and show, the opportunity to volunteer is open for the future. So it's a really, really, really good opportunity. There's 6 big nonprofits working together on this project, and with the local Mexican government that has donated this building. It's 1,300 hectares, and they're doing soil regeneration, permaculture, they're doing philosophy, they have a music and video, audio recording, they have a maker space, and we're going there to plant the first gardens and to help make some of the rooms more, nicer rooms for people in the future, more volunteers to come.
Mhm.
So if you're interested in that, you can check it out, tabi.earth, tabi.earth, and check that out. It's very, very, very awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you can see. Are you still?
Yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah,
show
or you
in a
can just
second.
talk to me after. But it's a really cool volunteering opportunity. They have a vegan chef. They'll be providing 3 meals per day to all the volunteers. You have weekends off, and Monday through Friday it's only like 3 or 4 hours working, and you can choose what you want to work on, and there's 12 different labs on the website. So I'm very, very, very excited about it. The Seeds Project and some other community people are coming together, so I'll be there posting updates, and it's like the Eco X-Men. There's like 100 rooms. It's freaking crazy. Yeah, it's a massive, massive mansion, and I think it's like the X-Men because we're like the eco superheroes, and we're all learning like very, very innovative things. Click Explore the Lab button, and you'll see all the labs there, and yeah, sign up to volunteer. If you are interested and you're crazy enough like me and the other 8 people going the first wave, then I'll give you a ride tomorrow.
Yeah, another cool project. Right, a lot of this regenerative movement, people learning how to regenerate the soils, grow food, and seeking communities of people to do it. So thank you guys again for all joining. Let's get one more shot here on the camera for everybody. Oops, 1 second. Let's get all right, guys. Get goodbye. Thank you all for coming.
Bye.
Yeah. And tune in next week for our next co-creating regenerative community workshop, where we will be discussing construction, design, houses. Diego, you'll probably have to come back. Being an architect, we'll use some of your knowledge again. Would be awesome. Yeah, and have some questions ready. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys all for being here. Yeah, group picture.
Maybe the moment is right now.
Good idea.
So let's meet up there on the...
Yeah. I'm gonna leave it. Okay. Here?
Yeah.
Where? ¿Dónde?
I think the
¿Hacia
stairs
allá?
will be good.
Okay. ¿De atrás? ¿La foto? Yeah, back there works. Okay. reach out to us. Our world is empowering this community movement, and the humans are the way that this is happening. So please reach out to us, follow our pages. We'll be sharing a lot of content like this for the rest of this workshop series and future ones to come. We'll be sharing a lot about Sanctuary in the coming weeks and eco-fair events.